All of you for coming to order at this time as we've begun the meeting. We would also ask, if you would please, silence your phones, silence your tablets. No screaming babies in the room. They're welcome, but the phones are not. So if you could, please keep those quiet for the benefit of those who have to present cases to the board and also for the board as they try to listen. It'll be greatly appreciated. We thank you in advance. For each of today's public hearings, the board reviews correspondence that's been submitted both in support of and opposition to each of the cases. The board also reviews correspondence and recommendations from other government agencies in preparation for the hearings. In today's hearing, staff will present the site plans, the maps, the photographs, and other documents that comprise each of the case records. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the appellant will present his or her case to the board. After the appellant's presentation, the board would hear from any of those wishing to speak in support of the appeal that's been filed. Then, if the appeal has opposition, the board would hear from those parties. After opposition presents its testimony, the appellant would again have the opportunity to come forward and present rebuttal testimony if they wish. Under BZA rules, an appellant has 5 minutes for a presentation if there is no opposition present. In contested cases, BZA rules allow for 10 minutes for each side to present the desired testimony. Should the appellant wish to provide rebuttal testimony, the appellant should reserve some portion of that originally allocated 10 minutes. At the conclusion of each hearing, the board will deliberate and then vote on that case. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases under the provisions of the Metro Zoning Code, specifically Section 17.40.180. All of the section numbers to which we refer today come from the Metro Zoning Code, which applies to the entire jurisdiction of the metropolitan government of Nashville and Davidson County. The zoning code was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective on January the 1st of 1998. I'll introduce the entire zoning code and make it part of today's record. The Metro Code requires a record of these proceedings. Because BZA meetings are recorded for public television, it's imperative that anyone addressing the board come forward and speak into one of the microphones here at the front of the room. Simply identify yourself by name and address and then make the desired presentation. Comments from the gallery are not permitted, and no such comments will ever be part of a record at a BZA meeting. The Metro Code requires 4 of our 7 members in order to establish quorum. The code also requires 4 affirmative votes in order to grant an appeal. In the event that 5 or more members are present, as is the case today, and an appeal fails to receive 4 affirmative votes, then a case would remain on the board's agenda for the next 30 days. Applications that fail to receive 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of the public hearing date shall be deemed denied by operation of law. Pursuant to board rules, an aggrieved party may appeal board decisions to the Chancery Court within 60 days of the hearing date. Additionally, an aggrieved party may file a motion for rehearing within 60 days of the original hearing date pursuant to the terms of the BZA rules and regulations. After that time elapses, the BZA's decision becomes final and no further action can be taken. For the appellants, if your appeal is granted, you are in fact required to obtain the permit for which you applied. A permit must be obtained within 2 years for a board approval to remain valid. After that time, you would have to start the process all over again. It should be noted that if any false or misleading testimony is presented to the board, then the board has the ability to revoke such approval at a later date by means of a show cause hearing before the BZA. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all of today's cases have been filed in the proper order. All the appellants have been notified by certified mail, and all legal notice requirements have been fulfilled. As a preliminary announcement, there are 3 items on the agenda that have already been dealt with. First, case number 327, the first item on today's docket, which involves the property at 446 37th Avenue North, has been deferred to February the 1st. Second is case number 2017-404 involving the property at 3325 Dumas Drive. That case has been deferred to the February 15th docket. And finally, case number 2017-411 has been withdrawn as the matter has been resolved administratively. Those 3 cases will not be heard today. Oh, yeah, late deferral. And then one late addition to our list of deferrals was case number 412, Mr. Chairman. That's 2017-412, involving the property at 204 White Bridge Pike. That case, too, has been deferred. Do you have the date, Debbie? To February 1st docket as well. So those 4 cases will not be heard today. For members of our audience, we note that our board utilizes a consent agenda. One board member reviews the record for each case prior to the meeting and identifies cases where the appellants have met the criteria for their requested action. If the reviewing board member determines that testimony in the case would not alter the material facts, then that case is recommended to the board for approval on its consent agenda. We'll enter into the record those cases that have been so recommended today, and if anyone is here in the audience in opposition to one of the two cases identified for consent agenda, simply raise your hand, make sure I see you, and that case will be heard in its regular order. The first case recommended for consent agenda is case 2017-347. Shaw Construction, LLC, is the appellant, involving the property at 1431 Dickerson Pike. The variance request involves a fire damaged property and subsequent sidewalk requirements. That case has been recommended for the consent agenda. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 347? Very well, that case will be heard in its regular order and not included in the consent agenda. The next case is case number 2017-423, involving the property at 6820 Nolensville Pike. Steve Mishu, the appellant, regarding a variance from sign restrictions to replace an existing sign with a digital sign at a church property at the aforementioned address. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 423? Seeing none, that will be the case identified for the board's consent agenda. Mr. Chairman, we would solicit a motion and vote.
Okay, would like to move that one case to the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. John Michael.
Case 423 is thus concluded. Anyone here for that case need not stay, but is welcome to do so. At this occasion in the meeting, Mr. Chairman, we always try to recognize elected officials who are in the audience with us.
Yes, but before we get started, I'd like to recognize that, the streets of Nashville, some of the side streets are still icy. Our schools are closed, so we really appreciate everyone getting here today. I know some of you probably, it was a little bit harder than others, but it's noted, and we're glad that we also have a good attendance here, too, as well.
Mr. Chairman, I know I saw Councilmember Brett Withers from Council District Number 6 in our audience. Councilman, did you wish to address the board here at the outset of the meeting? Appears that he does. Councilman Withers.
Good afternoon, board members.
Can we turn on the microphone? Yes.
Good afternoon, board members. I am Brett Withers, Metro Council Representative for District 6, and I'm here today for a case for property located at 900 Main Street. This is an existing structure that has been there on Main Street for a long time, the old Fluffo Mattress Company, which is the structure is being renovated, and within the existing building footprint, the current sidewalks do go up from the curb to the existing building footprint, which is what we want in urban areas. And the applicants are here today. They are undertaking a significant investment in rehabilitation of that property, which will include adding some additional stories on top of it, and further enhancing the pedestrian experience in that area. And directly behind that, they've also recently completed another structure as well. So they are long-term investors in the area, very well known to our community, and have great reputations for doing quality work in our community. Initially, this appeal was to pay the in lieu fee, and my understanding is that the applicants have sought to remove themselves from the consent agenda. What they are wishing to do is to have an arrangement with Public Works wherein they would make any repairs to the sidewalk that might happen during construction, or possibly add some tree wells or things of that nature, which are consistent with the property immediately behind this on the Woodland Street frontage. somewhat of an unusual circumstance at this stage because that's not a known factor, but I am amenable to the board working with the applicants for some of a plan of that nature. One of the things that sometimes we hear from neighbors since we have enacted the new sidewalk bill is that in cases in which someone pays an in lieu fee, then there could be damage to the sidewalk or things like that could take a long time to resolve. And I've actually had one property owner who opted basically to I've had a couple of property owners that have just opted to repair or replace the sidewalks directly rather than pay into a fee, and sometimes that's more cost effective for them, and it's also more timely for the neighborhoods that have to use those sidewalks. So I'm not quite certain of all of the details that the applicants are going to present to you today, but I'm generally amenable to working with them on that. I've already worked with the codes department on this particular case to enable some work to proceed on the building and renovations on this property while they are working matters out and coming before the board for the sidewalk variance itself. I didn't want to hold the entire project up for a couple of months waiting on that detail. It sounds like some additional time and discussion might be worthwhile, but I'm generally in support of the plan that the applicants are bringing before you.
Councilman, while you're up there, I want to ask our lawyer about that kind of recommendation. So we have the power to let someone pay into in lieu fee or not, but this kind of hybrid, can we just, or do we have the authority to kind of allow them to kind of fix up instead, or how does that work?
I would, excuse me, I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but I believe the ordinance allows you to grant a variance, and it does also allow you to pay into the fund. And you're asking if they can just fix it up on their own rather than a variance with conditions. Yeah, I mean, I think that would just be a variance with conditions, I think, which y'all have that authority to do.
Okay. Any other questions for the council?
I just wanted to ask Councilman Withers, is he, so I couldn't hear, do you want them to pay the in lieu fee if we do not grant the variance? How do you want to?
I believe if you do not grant the variance that they would have to pay the in lieu fee or whatnot. But what they're proposing to do is to make repairs to the sidewalk, or in some cases I've had folks that have replaced sections of the sidewalk, and they're also looking at potentially adding some tree wells and some things of that nature to
So you support
that.
granting the variance with the condition that they repair the sidewalk and work with Public Works to enhance the existing sidewalk with tree wells or other such things that Public Works and the owner agree to?
That is very well stated. Thank you, Mr. Tapp.
Okay, and I want to ask our lawyer about that again.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify for the, just for the record, the language in the current ordinance says that this board may, under the variance section, this board may require a contribution to the pedestrian network consistent with subsection D of the section, or an alternative sidewalk design or other mitigation for the loss of the public improvement as a condition to the variance. So I think if y'all determine that the repairs that the applicant wants to make would qualify as a reasonable mitigation, then I think that could be a condition to the variance.
The pedestrian network, I like that. Fancy word for sidewalks. Any other questions for the councilman? Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your consideration.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, we're also joined by Councilman Scott Davis from Council District Number 5. Councilman, do you wish to address the board here at the outset of the meeting?
Oh, please press the button, Councilman Davis, so people in District 5 and all over can hear you.
Thank you, Board, for your volunteering your time and your assistance. Thank you, Code staff, for your work and all your overtime you put in without extra pay. We really do appreciate you. I'm here. I have several issues on the agenda. A few I may be speaking, on during when they come up here to talk to you, to the wonderful people here. Let's start an easier one. Let's look at 805, case number 367. It was before this wonderful body before. I believe the neighbor and the builder spoke to the urban forester, and I believe there was some they've reached some sort of agreement. But also, I want to draw your attention. I don't know if you got it in your email. If you're not, I could provide it for the case. Recently on that street, there's been some new residents moving in who are in support. There are units being built on that street, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, at $254. And that's kind of unheard of in East Nashville, but it's happened, but it's happening. And I would love to, when the case comes up, provide you guys with a letter from that. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of you, wonderful people. Because that's one thing that we're looking at here is with those cases, is that, that we all want affordability, but at the same time, looking at these industrial areas and getting these variances, I want you to see the fruits of your labor and all the hard work that this board has done. And that may seem like a lot of money to some people, but the average house in my district is in the 400s. And I even have some in Cleveland Park that are selling at $650.
The average is already at 400?
Yes. So a house, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, at $254, and also the people are getting help through THDA with the $15,000 down, which is also helping. See, when you have density, your land price is cheaper, and at that price point, we're getting to the point where there may be some metro employees that are able to have some affordable housing within the urban core. Let's start.
So we had this case, as you mentioned. So I think last time we evoked the Chris Whitson rule that our former chairman and council person, that he always believed that if the parties had more time together, that they might be able to kind of come closer and maybe come to a compromise. Have you been part of any of those discussions?
I've been not between the developer and the neighbor, but I've been in discussions with some other neighbors on that street, and the new neighbors that are moving in further up Cherokee, being in support of this. And they're like, we like these houses, and everybody benefits, because the biggest complaint is nobody wants to be displaced, but this is vacant land, and the property in which gentleman Scott Jones is building on has been abandoned for years. And so having some sort of activity, I think what's happened, that him having a different design, it's actually the houses are farther away from the neighbor's house originally as she thought. So I'm hoping to see some cooperation here. Let's go to Bill 347. This one, I wish it was not here, and I'll tell you why. This is a market which had fresh groceries, lots of them, fruit, and it served the Hispanic, a large number of Guatemalans and other Hispanic populations in District 5, and also served the neighbors at the Uptown Flats, which is a Freeman Webb managed building. This building caught on fire. It was not arson. And I want to thank the Codes Department for their hard work, and Bill Herbert's team and John Michael's team for their assistance in understanding that, because I have a food desert area in my district, and this was a oasis in that food desert. I mean, I would go in there and shop and get milk, and my wife is very particular, okay? And having that there, especially on Dickerson Road, this is why I want the sidewalk advocates to understand. Dickerson Road on that side has a nice new sidewalk already. Great bus stop. Across the street, Public Works just got finished designing, and they presented to the Dickerson Road merchants maybe 3 months ago the new design for the other sidewalks across the street of Schwab Elementary, all along Dickerson Pike. And there may be some confusion, and I love our Public Works Department, that why does this is maybe the fall of the sidewalk bill, that an act of God or a tornado or accident or act of nature, however you want to call it, we should not be coming here to the BZA board. Our clerks and our codes department are well trained. If that does not say arson, and Bill Herbert could see, yes, this was a tornado, and sorry not to put you on the spot, Mr. Herbert, but, if there's a tornado, a fire that was not arson, or any sort of accident, they should not have to violate the sidewalk rule because the insurance company does not cover a sidewalk and a lieu fee. And I know we've all probably had to deal with an insurance company at one time. Sometimes it's not very fun, especially when they don't want to pay the $20,000 for a lieu fee or to pay for a sidewalk when there's already a sidewalk there. Even though we have new rules, which I respect the new rules, it's hard for me to look at a small business owner and someone that was providing a good service to my neighbors and not advocate for them to get some reprieve from this because their insurance is barely covering their repairs. Now, I can understand if it was a sprinkler system or the code said that you had to have a different roof pitch or something for safety. But the sidewalk thing, the insurance companies aren't paying the in lieu fee, and they're not paying for the new sidewalk repairs. They're paying just for what the building was insured for, and this building was there before the rules.
And I imagine even if you were trying to be savvy about shifting risks, if you went to an insurance company and said, will you insure the sidewalk, they'd say, you don't own that. We're not insuring the city property sidewalk. So you probably couldn't get insurance to even cover that.
And that's true. So I'm asking for mercy today, and from the sidewalk rule and the in lieu fee, because I need my grocery store back, and my neighbors in Uptown Flats
Yeah, I think this is the third or fourth case that we've gotten like that. Obviously, Mr. Davis, we're not the legislative body.
I know you're not.
But we appreciate your speaking so clearly about this particular issue.
And one last question, and just so it's on the record, because there is some legislation coming forward. Mr. Herbert, sir? All right. You know how to look at weather reports, right? And your staff could tell tornado did happen, flooding, and I know we have a great fire department and a great fire inspectors. So you trust their judgment if they say, hey, this was not arson, but, this was whatever it was that caused this fire. Okay, because I trust you. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, Councilman, and we're going to do everything that we can moving forward, and we'll apply the ordinance as fairly and equitably as we possibly can.
Thank you.
Any questions for Councilman Davis? Thanks for being here as usual.
Mr. Chairman, we're also joined by Councilmember John Cooper. Mr. Cooper, would you wish to address the board here at the outset of the meeting?
Thanks. I'll wait for approval.
Very well. With that, Mr. Chairman, we've heard from the folks that we typically hear from here at the outset and can proceed with the first case in just one
Now
moment.
we're going to hear from the real tax-paying citizens that really kind of make all this work. So, John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the first case you'll hear is case number 347. It's the case that Councilman Davis just spoke of on Dickerson Pike, right along the main drag of the Dickerson Pike corridor. The property address is 1431 Dickerson Pike. The zoning of that is a CL, or Commercial Limited Zoning District, and is located well within an urban design overlay. The request here is for a variance from sidewalk requirements at the subject location, shown here in an aerial photograph, based upon the reconstruction that's taken place after fire damage at a place of business called the Apple Market, shown here at an earlier date. From our recent site visit, confirmation of the placement of the required notice sign, the view directly across the street here in the upper left-hand corner back towards Schwab Elementary, and the view up and down Dickerson Pike at this location in its current condition. Again, these photographs are just from about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. The appellant is Shaw Construction, LLC. The owner is Hufiz Yafai.
Please come forward.
If the appellants would please come forward and make the desired presentation to the board with regard to the variance.
please identify yourself for the record and your address and begin?
My name is Ali Shaw with Shaw Construction, LLC. Thank you for...
What's your address?
My address is 1707 Stillwater Circle, Brentwood, Tennessee.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. First and foremost, thank you, board member, for your time. As Mr. Councilman mentioned, this was not a voluntarily remodeling or rebuilding. This was a burned out building that happened in June. And here we go about 7 months later, we still haven't been able to get it up and running. And these people need their business back and their employees on the payroll. Now, that being said, I should appreciate Mr. Herbert's cooperation over at the planning department for allowing us to move forward with the construction of this building, and so that we can move a little bit faster on reopening this place. The problem is with the sidewalk, and I'm not against sidewalk. Okay, I have been building here for 27 years, and I have built several sidewalks. The problem with the sidewalk, as I talk to the Planning Commission, and how they're going to build the sidewalk, is basically going to kill the front parking and the entrance and the side parking also. It's just going to leave them with about 2 or 3 parking spaces on the right side that you cannot get in and get out for a grocery store. It basically makes it unusable. So we are here at your mercy to see, if you can help us, to put this back together.
Why would a sidewalk make your building unusable?
Well, the way the sidewalk is going to be instructed is going to move in close toward the front door and on the side, closer to the building, that it does not allow you any space for the parking or backing out. Right now, you can easily park and back out without going into the street.
You could park in front of the building is what you're saying right now?
Yes, sir.
How many cars park in front of the building?
It's about 5 or 6.
5
in
diagonal.
Front, 5 or 6 in front, yes.
Diagonal.
Well, actually, you can park straight. There is enough space right now to back out without going into the street. But if the sidewalk happens, it is going to make it impossible to park and well, you're going to run into the sidewalk. Let's just put it that way, to back out, and you cannot even get in. And on the side, the same way also. Right now, the side you can park, but if from what they were saying that the way the sidewalk is going to be done is going to encroach the building so much that you cannot park it on the side either. You probably, I don't know how you're going to do it, but it's basically going to kill that section also. So that's going to just a little space on the right side of the building, and that is going to hurt the business. Basically, might as well just shut it down.
But you also are arguing, though, that your councilman argued that the extraordinary circumstance was that it was a fire damage. You're not adding on, you're not new construction. It was the act of God, so to speak, that caused this. And the planning department has recommended that we approve this without any conditions or any fee, which is very rare. I mean, we get a lot of recommendations from them, and almost all would ask for a fee. So it's a pretty extraordinary recommendation from the planning department, agreeing with you that in this situation you should have our approval for a variance.
I should appraise you, Mr. Taylor. That's the case. We just can't. It is nothing. That they voluntarily did.
Yep. Do you have anything else to add before we hear from the opposition?
No,
You'll
sir.
be able to come back and respond to them.
Of course.
And please state your name for the record and your address.
My name is Rashid Mohsen, 1038 Walnut Bend Lane, Brentwood, Tennessee. I'm partnered with Hafiz Jaffe in the market.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to hear from the opposition, and you'll be able to come back and respond. So please go back to the audience, and we'll hear from who's ever opposed to this particular request.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, member.
If any who wish to speak in opposition to case number 347 will please come forward, identify yourself by name and address, and make your presentation to the board.
Board members, I appreciate your time. My name's Tony Klaus, and I was back there talking to Scott because I own a lot of real estate there. The property in question, I understand very well because my ex-mother-in-law owns the property. Her name is Patricia Wall. So it's not Hoffa, whatever that's on here. That's not the owner. The owner of the property is named Patricia Wall.
So they have a lease, though, right?
They got a lease.
Okay.
Okay. Like I was telling Scott, the situation at hand here is this. The board is fixing to vote on a sidewalk that's in place, or partially in place, that MDHA put on the, let's say, northeast side of the property going up Gatewood. That property, if you look, there's sidewalks that run all the way up from the corner of Dickerson Pike all the way to Luton Street, compliments of MDHA when they built the building next door. The situation that I've got with the whole thing is Public Works is fixing to come down from Douglas to Trinity Lane. I think they sent a notice to zoning, Mr. Smith did, about them coming down through there and putting new sidewalks in and fixing to buy more right-of-way.
And what side of the street?
On that side of the street. So they fixing to buy more right-of-way there, which when it's all said and done, that front door will only be about 10 to 12 feet from the front door, sidewalk. My whole thing when all this is going in, and like I talked to my mother-in-law, it would make more sense for the Shaw Construction and the people there and everybody in concern if they took and maybe we relocated the door on the side, because once all this goes in, because like I talked to Andrew Smith down at Public Works, he said if we're going to buy the property, if we have to do condemnation, we'll do condemnation, which is going to then affect their business because they're thinking that they're still going to be able to back in and out like that on the street.
Okay, so simply said, why are you in opposition to what they're asking for?
Well, I mean, they're asking for the variance on not putting the sidewalks in. Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, then we need sidewalks.
Okay.
It's sitting directly across from the elementary school, so we're not going to have sidewalks for the kids to walk on. I've been there since 1980, and we definitely need sidewalks there.
Okay. Any questions for the opposition?
So you're saying that the owner of the property is Patricia Wall?
Right.
And
Right.
this is the
So, I mean, it
property
was
in
filed. Y'all are voting on something that's not even the property owner.
Okay, and what is her position?
Sir, if you could keep your seat while the board members address you with questions. Thank you.
Ma'am, I can't speak for Ms. Wall.
Okay, I thought you were
I mean,
speaking on
when I say that, I mean, I don't want to speak on her behalf when she's not here. I mean, it wouldn't be fair to speak on another person's behalf.
Okay, I was
see-
under the
you understand what I'm
impression-
saying?
I was under the
I mean,
impression you were,
Well, when I say that, it's, this is just, I got a feeling it's just going to be more of a, it's like we got the cart before the horse. Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's hear from the applicant again. Please come forward. This is your time to respond to what he said. So he thinks you should have sidewalks in front of your business, and it's good for the neighborhood.
Look, originally I said, I'm not against the sidewalk, but this sidewalk basically will eliminate about 10 to 12 parking space that they are very important to this business. people that go out there. A lot of people are walking, a lot of people are driving. So what he's saying, to have the door on the side. On the side, you cannot even turn around more than 2 parking space.
Why are you
Michael, can we see the
relocating
other
a
picture,
door?
the front?
We are not doing anything. We are just rebuilding exactly what he was there.
Why is he speaking about the door?
He's talking about putting the door on the side of the building. And there is not enough. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parking in the front, okay? He is saying to put the door on this side, because when the sidewalk comes from the left side, it's going to kill the parking on that side also. So all is going to leave just this little space on the right side, and you can't even park 2 cars and turn around at the same time. So it's going to basically kill all of these parkings. And, like we said, we are not changing the format. We are just rebuilding what was there. We took out all the burned out wood, that was basically the whole ceiling, and, all the burned wood on the walls, on the exterior walls. And we're trying to make something really nice for the neighborhood also, and at the same time, reopening the business that has been out of business for almost 7 months. And it's just putting a lot of burden on them.
So, as you know, before we had the interstate system, this was one of our important corridors to Nashville. All these smaller motels opened up. There's a lot of people that walk in this district. You're a beneficiary of pedestrian traffic. The opposition said that sidewalks are probably going to come pretty soon anyway. I mean, don't you think that, and they'll take some right of way. So is now the time to just get on board? And, you've got a school across the street. It's a very pedestrian area. What do you think?
Well, like I said, we are requesting not to allow the sidewalk in front of this building. Otherwise, they have a contract to purchase this property, and they are on the lease right now. So basically, at the later time, if they ever decide to tear it down or, move it back or do something else, be more than glad to comply. But at this time right now, we can't do anything with this building if we allow the sidewalk in front.
Okay.
I did want to ask, are you the person that leases the property?
No, ma'am. I'm the contractor that
And
helping.
how long has it been leased at this location? 5 years? And what's the remaining term on the lease?
Well, we under contract to buying it when the fire happens, so we're about to buy the property.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have contract.
Any other questions? Okay. Anything else to add? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Discussion. So here we have a case, a little bit different than some of our other fire cases, but basically it's a case that a structure burned or had a major fire, and because of that, because of the way our sidewalk ordinance is written, under that, as we discussed, they have to comply with the new sidewalks. And as we also heard from the council person, the insurance company, if your house or building burns, is not going to pay for you to redo these. So, discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the potential future sidewalks, but we've seen enough recommendations from the Planning Commission that have said things like, in the next 10 years, a sidewalk's coming, so, disapprove or whatever. I mean, and in this case, the Planning Commission said, approve it. They just don't do that. And unless, if there's some extenuating reason like that. And so to me, the extraordinary circumstances and the fact that the Planning Commission agreed with those circumstances and said that we should approve this variance, I think matters. I think that I appreciate I know that there's some ownership questions and some representation issues, but it sounds like that the applicant is in the process of purchasing the building, even though he may not be the true owner now. But regardless, I think in this situation, and I ask our legal counsel who can confirm that, if the city were to come at a later date and put in a sidewalk, they would compensate the owner and go through the process and do that in the way that they would. So I don't think a variance here even hinders a future sidewalk.
Okay.
if the city were to do that on their own down the street. So I'm happy to make a motion to
Okay.
approve the variance.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you, board member. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Herbert, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Chairman, before we leave this case, I just wanted to make a note that we went ahead and issued the building permit in this case to allow them to go ahead and begin doing internal renovation to the pending the sidewalk variance here. So
Yeah, and we hope that because of the fire and because of the sidewalk ordinance, that doesn't slow someone down. So thank you for at least speeding that part up. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case to be heard is 2017-367 involving the property at 805 Cherokee Avenue, also from Councilman Davis's district. He addressed you on this case just a little while ago, and you correctly noted that the board had heard this case at a prior date. 444 Homes LLC is the appellant, the owner of the property at this location. The request is for variances from buffer, build-to zone, and parking requirements in this RM20 zoning district, which abuts industrial zoning districts to the east and to their south. If the appellant would come forward at this time to take it up with the board. Mr. Chairman, you asked one fact question that I think I'm able to help with, whether the appellant and neighbor or neighbors had the opportunity to get together. The answer to that is yes. The urban forester, in fact, went out and met on location with the folks and had a productive conversation. So staff tried to get out in front of that one a little bit. As you'll recall, the original proposal is for construction of 6 single-family units at this location within one building. The aerial here shows the property and the site plans that have been previously submitted. Very well. If the appellant would introduce yourself by name and address, and I'll deal with the rest.
Okay. Hi, I'm Scott Jones. I live at 335 Gillette Drive, Franklin, Tennessee. We are the owner of that property. We closed on it after the BZA was applied for. So that is the change there. We would ask that you help us with this. Our goal is to provide affordable housing. The property it's in really rough condition. It's pretty run down. Our goal would be to improve upon that, make it pretty again.
So I think most of us were here for the last case, but not to totally rehash that. So
Sure.
What's changed since the last time we've sat
Yes, sir.
in front of you?
So I did meet with Kelvin, urban forester gentleman, and our neighbor, and we all walked the property. We got some tape measures out and sort of talked about where the physical house would begin in relationship to her home. And she had thought that our new property or new structure would be right up against hers, where people would be looking down on her. And as we used our tape measure, we realized it would be much further back. It wouldn't even be near her house. And that made her feel a lot better. She said that certainly made a big old difference to her. We also discussed that one of the issues was she had an old fence along our property line, and we agreed that if she was okay with that we would be willing to pay to remove the old fence and the yuckiness of it and put up a brand new fence instead of just putting a new fence in front of the old fence.
Nicely done. Very good.
And so that was one thing we discussed. And then her other concern was there was a tree probably about 50-60% of the way back. There's a large tree that appears to be on the shared property line. And when I say appeared, that's where the fence is, so we assume that's where it is. And that tree kind of goes up and splinters out in a bunch of different directions. And it's pretty clear that this part of it could be removed and a large chunk of the rest, about 50%, would still remain on the left.
And without killing the tree, you could do that?
According to Urban Forester, he felt that there's no absolute guarantees, but he gave us a list of people who are certified arborists who could come out and they could do the work of removing the portions, and he felt it would have a fairly good chance of survival. And we were more than willing to use those professionals and go down that route. We certainly want to be
And it
as
was
helpful as
necessary
possible.
to your site plan to do that too, though?
It is, yes, sir. So that's kind of, I believe that's the nutshell of what we talked about.
Okay, questions?
So what are you still seeking the same variances then?
Yes, ma'am. The last time that we were here, our urban forester mentioned he was in support of removing the 10-foot buffers on the sides. And then we were asking for the property to be moved back further, and part of that was to not interfere with the lady's home, and that would give her more privacy. It also helps accommodate with parking. And then we asked for one more thing, which was a reduction in parking by one. I did do additional research and noticed that there is a bus stop at the intersection of Cherokee and Jones, and I did a CRS report and did a mapping of the dimension of space from the front of our property to that bus stop is 590 feet. And I know that the parameters give us 650 feet. You can reduce parking because you have buses, or bus access. And so that should comply with the car minimum. Actually, it would allow us to reduce it by 2, but we don't need to do that, just 1. And there is room on the street for 1 parking spot if someone needed to, and that is where our neighbors park as well as on the
But you
street.
just can't count that for your totals.
I mean, you're welcome to, I mean, it does allow you to allow me to count that. I just didn't count that without your permission.
Oh, John Michael, is that, can we count the street?
I'd have to go back and revisit the parking count on that under the ordinance, sorry.
Okay, okay. Other questions of the applicant? Do we have opposition here today, or is it opposite? Yes, we do. Okay. So we're going to hear from the opposition.
Okay.
And you can come back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And will the, Stefan. So you went out.
I agree with what Scott says. I did go out there. We discussed the buffer as far as what I'm dealing with on the variance request, the buffer and the existing mulberry tree, and I concur with everything that he said.
So you think the tree could be cut that dramatically and saved? I know you never know.
Like I said, there's no guarantees. There's no guarantees, but I think if they do as a proper certified arborist and do some good root cutting techniques, I think there's a good chance that the tree could be saved. In terms of the buffer, keep in mind this is one of those unique situations where you have a buffer that's going from a higher intensity or lower intensity to a higher intensity zone district. So it's one of those kind of weird ones. So I'm in support of the buffer variance.
Okay.
They still have to do a perimeter strip. They still have to do tree density. So.
Okay. Welcome back. We're hearing from the opposition. Please identify yourself, your address, and get started.
My name is Karina Ayala. I live at 803 Cherokee Avenue, and it is to the left of the highlighted area on the screen. First, I just wanted to mention that this is a sign that was on my gate, not for sale. I made the not. So nowhere, as I say, not call me. So I just put that on my fence. But moving forward, we did meet. It was a very productive meeting, and he explained a lot about what he's planning on doing with the property next door. And it did help a lot to know that the structures will not be directly on my house, which is very nice. I do have to say that I still disagree with the 6 units. I still think that's excessive for the area, for the lot. He did explain why he chose 6 units, and we talked about that. The one question I do have, though, is about the buffer. He's wanting to reduce the buffer, is that right, so that it would be closer to my property?
No, we can maybe get the urban forester to explain the buffer, but that, when you go from a C zone, like this is C7 next to you, to RM20, to, when you transition between those types of zones, you're required to have a buffer. And a lot of times it makes sense. Most of the time it's to protect the RM20 from the commercial district, so that if the commercial folks would have to put up a buffer if they're going to do a commercial building, but someone can explain it better. But
That's correct. He's RM40. Your property is actually IWD, so it's kind of a reverse thing. But his buffer requirement is a C-type buffer, which he can meet with the fence and a strip along there. But
The 5 feet that we were talking about?
correct.
Okay.
yeah, and the buffer's not the setback. It's not where you can build your property. This is a forestry buffer. It's trees, and so yours is industrial. Even though you're living in a house on this industrial property. Well, the buffer law was written thinking that you're a paper mill, or some industrial use, or a factory, or some industrial use, but you're a house. And so the code is written, so you'd have 10 feet of tree plantings or that kind of thing between the two, so the house residential next to the industrial wouldn't see it. But in your situation, it doesn't make a lot of sense because they're both residential.
Residentials, right.
And so it's not the setback where you can build to. He's not asking for a variance there. It's just how much space does he have to plant trees between the two residential places? That's what he's talking about.
Okay. All right, thank you.
John Michael, they're asking for the variance from the buffer and then parking. How many units can you build on this just normally?
It's 20 per acre, and that's the 20 part of the RM20 designation. So sorry, I don't have the square footage right in front of me to do the backward math on that, but this is within what's allowed by law. Otherwise, they'd be seeking a variance request regarding density.
So just parking and buffer aside, they're allowed to build 6 units on this? Okay.
So having 6 units on it with, say there's 2 people apiece, so that's 12 people on that part of land with the parking that they have. And I actually did send letters in and photos of the road itself where people currently park on the road that have residences there. So 12, up to maybe 12 cars if you have 2 people per unit. Now, we do have a bus stop, he mentioned, and it is at the T intersection. That is to take into consideration, and people do park on the road. So moving forward, the council member was also mentioning, more units going in down further on the road, and I think there's another proposal to have another rezoning for another unit to go in further down the road. This road that I personally live on is going to be incredibly congested. It is a dead-end street, and just because there is land doesn't necessarily mean that we should cram it with its much small apartments or condos that people can live on because it's available there. And but as far as the property concerned for my property and their property, we did come to an understanding about that. And so as far as having an arborist come out and having a fence put up, we've come to an agreement about that. So the only thing that I really do disagree with is the amount of units that he wants to put on that property.
So as we said, the 2 variances he's asking for is buffer, and we've talked a lot about that, and then parking. Basically, by law, he can build 6 units on there. That's kind of,
right.
We're not really debating the 6-unit part. We're just debating these 2 other variances.
Okay. Well, parking, as I stated, is very limited. It's very limited, and that's...
And how does that affect you? So where do you normally park? And
I park directly in front of my house, or I park in my house off of the road. So it directly affects me according to where these, if there's overflow.
Okay.
If there's not overflow, then, they'll have the sufficient parking that he's recommending. But anytime that there's overflow, it will direct me. It will affect me.
Questions for the opposition?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's hear from the applicant again. So how do you respond to what you just heard?
Well, I would say as for parking, there are lots and lots of space up and down that street for parking. There's lots of empty lots, but there is also
But she's
bus
saying
parking.
she doesn't want your people in parking in front of her house, where she normally parks.
Okay, well, duly noted. I don't see why they would need to.
I've got
Yes.
a question on the parking. You had said you thought that you were within 650 feet of a bus stop, which would make this, the parking variance request irrelevant to what you're trying to do. Would you be opposed to us considering the other 2 and deferring just the parking for a month for you to figure, if they can, y'all can decide pretty quickly, right? If it's within and so basically, if we defer it, you won't have to pay another fee. You'll be on the calendar for the parking variance in 2 weeks, or we can do it at the next meeting, and that way we can address the other 2 without having to debate the parking, since you raised a very high probability that you won't need the parking variance at all, since that was the main concern of your opposition.
I mean, if that's what we need to do, I'm not going to be opposed to any recommendation that you think is reasonable.
I mean, it sounds like, I mean, the hardship of a parking is a little tougher one to prove, and if you don't need the parking variance, then, you know, like I said, it would give you if you go to code, if you say, hey, I'm within 650 feet, I should have 10% off, I don't need this parking variance, and they say, okay, you're done. Otherwise,
And you don't have to come back here.
You don't have to come back at all. Otherwise, if they say, no, I don't agree with you, then you come back the last time and say, I do need that one space, can you give it to us? And that's all we're considering. But the rest of it is something we could decide today.
Okay. What would you need me to do in reference to the parking? I wasn't completely clear. Between now and the next meeting, what would
No,
you?
I would say that take your bus stop calculation back to codes and say, hey, I think I really got a 10% discount here. I really think, I mean, is that
10% reduction in the parking requirements.
You know,
and if
just say,
that
hey,
if
you know,
it's just that one
there's a bus
space.
stop here that we didn't know about.
And Mr. Chairman, if it helps, go to codes, sign in to see a zoning examiner. We'll do the calculation with you and see if you're within X number of feet of a bus stop such that it triggers the reduction in your count.
Because I'm sure there's a way they measured it from the actual stop to whatever entrance, and, you know, it's
Yeah, that's
very
fair.
technical.
That's fair.
Okay.
And would they note that, or would they need to give me something to bring to you, or like what happens next?
They would note, they would realize that you don't need a variance there, and it'd be fine.
Okay.
Because at some point you went down there and they may have missed the bus stop, or maybe it's a new bus stop, I don't know.
We
But
definitely missed
And I was
it.
just asking, I mean, we can decide, but it just seems like that's a tougher burden, and if you can take care of that administratively, that's better.
Sure.
And then it would just be because it doesn't sound like there's opposition to the buffer or the build-to zone.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So, anything else to add then? I think we're kind of finished.
I think I'm good. Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor.
I think we heard it, we've listened to it, they went back. I'll move that we approve the variance to the buffer and the build-to zones.
Do you want to put the part in about the fence that they agreed to do?
Provided,
And the
provided on the condition that the applicant provide the fence.
Remove the fence and then put up the new fence, and then,
Right.
you know, pay for the trimming of the,
And pay an arborist that was recommended by the urban forester to do their very best to professionally trim the mulberry tree on his side of the property, because all of the conditions under those codes that we are addressing have been met.
okay? Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'm sorry. The last piece of the motion is that, or maybe it's a second motion, but to defer but so he doesn't have to pay and re-sign up, and it's, but to defer the parking requirement variance until the next meeting.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Good luck with codes.
Thank you. When is that next meeting, please?
February 1st.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Right here. Same bat time, same bat place. John Michael.
The next case to come before the board is case number 2017-381, a case involving a short-term rental permit. Marshall Bradanini is the appellant and owner of the property at 1202 Calvin Avenue. The request, of course, is for a reduction in the one-year waiting period, with the denial of the permit having been predicated on operation under an expired permit. Ms. Bradanini is represented by counsel, who will make the desired presentation to the board. Please introduce yourself by name and address, and take it up with the board.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Thomas McFarland. My address is 1605 10th Avenue North, Nashville 37208. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Bradanini related to the property at 1202 Calvin Avenue. I wanted to clear one thing up at first. The agenda is a little misleading. It's not a denial of a short-term rental property permit. Ms. Bradanini has a permit. She's had a permit since the first day she was able to get one. This is an instance of a expired permit. By all intents and purposes, Ms. Brattanini is a model STRP operator. This is her only STRP property in the city. If it were up to her, she would live here full-time in this residence, but she's in the music industry and her husband's in the film industry, and because of that, they're not able to reside in Nashville full-time. They received the permit number 2015-16997, in May of 2014, I believe? 2015. And since that time, they've operated the STRP under the letter of the law. She's paid every single fee and occupancy tax on time, in full, never had one complaint from anyone regarding the use of the property. Her neighbors are actually in support of the property as an STRP. In the spring of this year, while living in London, United Kingdom, as part of her husband's employment as a filmmaker, she attempted to renew the permit, called codes several times, left messages each time, just wasn't able to get anything back, tried to do it online, couldn't get it worked out. As soon as she received notice of operating, she had no idea that the permit was expired. As soon as she received notice that the permit had expired in October of 2017, immediately delisted the property from all sites, Airbnb. Do you operate it anywhere else? Just Airbnb. Have not rented it since, and immediately sought this appeal. Basically, the appeal seeks the reissuance of that permit, which we have been assured is an equitable power that this board can grant. So as opposed to the denial of a STRP, this is an appeal seeking the reissuance of that same permit just because it was allowed to lapse due to this small oversight. I hope that you all received the packet that we submitted. The snow kind of made it a little troublesome to get that submitted, but as you'll see, there's a personal statement from Ms. Brattanini in there. There's also a statement in support from one of her neighbors who actually operates as the caretaker of the property, bringing money back into the community. We also, in the interim since the submittal and now, there's been another submittal from a neighbor in support. It's quite short, but if you all would like to see that, we're happy to submit that. Basically, also, I've spoken to Councilman Withers. You heard from him earlier. This was originally set for hearing in December, but due to the holidays, we deferred it to now. Councilman Withers, to my understanding, has no opposition to this. He wanted a little more information on it, to which I provided all the information I'm providing you, and he does not appear to have any opposition to it. Basically, the equitable powers of this board would allow it to reissue the permit at issue. She's a model STRP property operator. We know that that's a hot button issue in the city, but this is just not the instance where you have an STRP who operates, gets complaints, rents to the wrong type of people. That's just not what's going on here. So we would ask that the board reissue the permit as issued, not issue a new one, just reissue 2015-16997 to Ms. Brattanini.
Ms. Brattanini, please state your name and your address for the record.
Marshall Brattanini, 1202 Calvin Avenue.
Okay, so I have a question for you. As your letter says that
Sure.
you were one of those people that came here at 5 a.m. the very first day that these were allowed to happen, these short-term rentals. You had obviously read up about it and were ready to go, and you got your permit, one of the first in Nashville. So it was mentioned that you and your husband travel a lot, film, music. So how did this kind of fall through the cracks?
Well, I do all the other sort of quarterly sales tax, monthly hotel tax, which I, have to handwrite, which is incredibly taxing chore to do while living overseas, to submit something by hand every month, which I've always done.
You've done that. You've
Yeah,
never missed
exactly. And again, it was one of those things that I have somebody, when I live overseas, checking my mail and making sure they forward all information to me. And I did my business license permit, and just because it isn't my full-time job, it's something I do to help pay our mortgage, that I usually reactively, pay bills and things like that. And because I wasn't informed or sent any sort of letter of, here's a bill, pay it, that I didn't have something proactively on my calendar. In that time I had a son, which, as anyone with a child knows, your brain isn't necessarily on dates and making sure you follow up with things. And again, in terms of, which I'm trying to show through the myriad of other things I managed to comply with, that this was something that I had no idea I had missed until I had received the notification. I wasn't ever received like, this is late, this is a bill. I simply completely missed the renewal date and have never had a complaint against my property. I've actively turned away anybody I think is bad to our economic detriment, and really try to be conscious of my neighbors, one which has 2 young children that wrote me a letter of support today. And again, it was just an administrative oversight as somebody who's a non-professional.
How and when did you find out that you didn't have a permit?
Basically, I had an inkling in May that I hadn't received any sort of information about the renewal, or I couldn't, again, I was living overseas with a small child. I wasn't necessarily, it just came to my mind of like, I don't remember getting any information on renewing this. I get information on my sales tax, my property tax, my business tax, and my sales and use tax, and all those other things. But I had that intuition of, oh no, I think I might have missed something. And then once that happened, I tried to contact codes, and they say obviously priority is given to those people that can show up in person. And again, this whole thing starts because I can't be here in person, even though I would like to. So it happened basically starting May, June, and then I received the letter that I was in violation, which I was like, what am I in violation of? And then I saw that I had been operating again with an expired permit.
And that correspondence on October 27, 2017, that was the first notification of any operation without a permit. And at that point, all listings ceased. It's been removed from the sites, and she hasn't operated it as an STR. It's set vacant since then.
So you canceled listings too?
Yes. And
How
again,
many
it's
listings
one
did
of
you cancel?
actually not that many because it was in October, so it wasn't any.
October's a good month for Nashville.
No, so I'm saying I got it towards the end of October, and so again, because I stay there quite often too, and then I have friends stay, that it's something that I try to open, with a little bit of time in advance in case, because I do live there. It's not an open residency. And again, it's one of those things, like, I think the fact that I paid thousands and thousands of dollars in sales tax, property tax, hotel tax, the fact that I wouldn't have intentionally paid a $50 renewal fee, it's just, of course I would have paid a $50 renewal fee. It was definitely not due to any, conscious intent.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? We're going to hear from Mr. Osborne. Please come and tell us about this case, how you found out about it, and if there were any other violations that don't have to do with submitting permits.
Okay. So we found out about this one due to host compliance for them not having a permit. A notice was sent out on October 27th. After pulling it up today, the advertisement is still active. There's reviews from January of this year.
So if I wanted to, I could go book that
There
right
should
now?
be, it's totally blacked out.
No, that is not correct.
What's the last review that's been on there, Mr. Osborne?
January 2018.
I can speak to my property manager. I should not have any active listings there.
January this month, and then before that?
It goes back to October.
Can you read us a January review?
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
This house is an absolute gem if you're looking for an authentic Nashville experience. The historic residence was clean and had everything we needed, but had a special charm and warmth that is rare to find in an Airbnb. The location could not have been more convenient for us. Everything we needed was walkable or a 5 to 10 ride away. Kate was responsive and was kind enough to let us check in a bit early so we could drop our bags, which was greatly appreciated. The beds were very comfortable with luxurious sheets and pillows. Kitchen was fully equipped, and the living spaces were warm and cozy. The backyard fire pit was also awesome and an unusual feature. We had such a wonderful time at the Smith Fry House. Highly, highly recommended.
Sorry.
So, when was that done?
We had a staying there, and we basically worked hard to get a super hosting listing, which you can get and then cancel if you don't stay.
So
and then we had a
did have
personal.
someone staying there.
This was through supposedly a personal friend of the property manager, which was not supposed to be through Airbnb.
But you rented the house.
Not through. It should have been. I said black out all the listings. Don't accept any more. I
And
can
then
pull up the
how much did
listings
they
that
pay
are
for
there.
this rental?
I would have to check through there, but it was not supposed to be through any sort of over Airbnb websites.
It doesn't, so this is called the STRP law. If you go to the Metro Council, it's not called the Airbnb law, although
Sure, yeah.
80% or whatever come through Airbnb. It's all short-term rentals, of less than 31 days. So someone stayed here in January, and you said everything was shut down.
Yes, everything should have been shut down.
And you just said you were doing this so you could get this superhost status, and that doesn't sound like somebody that's
No, I'm saying if we
trying
had
to comply
canceled.
with the law while they don't have a permit.
Yes, we tried to cancel all existing ones except for ones that had a personal
But
relationship.
they said they mentioned you by name. in
No, they
there, too.
mentioned the property manager. My name's Marshall.
Oh, but they mentioned your representative by name.
They did.
And so
Okay.
what was going on?
It was to my understanding the only people that had stayed at our house were people that had personal relationships.
Okay. Questions for the applicant? Questions for Mr. Osborne? Okay, do you have anything else to add?
No, I can speak to her and double check that should have been a personal
We would just state that January listing was simply an oversight. The representative was instructed to remove it and not list it. To the extent that it was a personal contact, we would simply apologize for that. That's simply an oversight.
But our code staff member says it's active now and has been since October.
It's all the listings are blacked out in terms of the calendar stays, so you can't actually book anything. That
And
was
Mr. Osborne,
my
come back up.
understanding.
Please come back up
Do you see
here.
what I'm saying?
So, you spend probably more time looking at Airbnb, VRBO, and all these other sites than anybody probably in Nashville. If you wanted to book this today, right now, could you?
No, it should be blacked out.
I can select the dates between February 25th to February 28th.
Does that mean you could actually rent it?
I can bring it up on my computer and show you that the dates are blacked out. This is a,
Let me log in real quick.
again, this is not my full-time job.
We understand.
This is how I supplement my income. There's a calendar on that, and I was hoping I could come with regards to resolving this and black out the calendar up to, I believe I blocked it up through March.
But we hear from people, sometimes people just totally take down the listing, which is the easiest thing to do. Some people say they're able to kind of hide the listing and still.
But for me, blacking out the calendar to where you can't rent it is functionally removing it, and I'll, try to rent it.
I'm sure the people at Metro Nashville Network don't like dead air, but
I'm sorry.
we are waiting for the.
Takes me a minute to get to the right password. There's so many of them.
But the point is, and if Councilman Allen were here, who's the author of this bill, the posting is a violation, even without a permit. Not even being able to rent or not, the fact that you can see a posting is a violation. And she would be the first to tell us that. And that's how she wrote the law, and the council properly passed it.
Sorry, that wasn't clear to me.
We would respond to that, and just with our previous presentations, that this is the $50 renewal fee, merely just the oversight. This is not an instance of Ms. Bradnini operating intentionally outside the letter of the law. It's just simply an oversight due to the nature of her work and her travel schedule.
How do you respond to this if it's a current listing, though? How is that more than the $50 renewal fee? When your client said herself that she took it down, and in fact, it may or may not be taken down.
The response would be that the blacking out, to the extent the difference between blacking it out and completely removing it, there's a distinction there. We would simply apologize for that.
While we're waiting.
I'm happy to pass my computer around so y'all can see the calendar.
Okay.
May I see it?
Sure.
So you're saying if we could see the calendar, that means you can actively book something?
It's booked right now up to February 24th.
But that's a listing.
But
Why
I
did
thought,
you-
Blocked or booked?
blocked, sorry, blocked. So, and originally my hearing was December 24th.
So you're taking reservations past February, is that what you're doing?
No reservations have been taken, no.
Then why does it start at February?
That's when the calendar, theoretically, I left it open to potentially see if I could have the permit reinstated, and if not, I will completely
So
remove
if
it.
I could go book for March, I'm coming here for spring break in Nashville, I could book right now today on your site?
I blocked it up through a date, which I thought we could have a resolution one way or the
But you blocked
other.
it up till like this month, but in the future, I could book it from like April or March or something like that.
Yeah, because my understanding, A, most people don't book that far in advance, and B, I was hoping to get a
Of course they
resolution
do.
on this.
You get bookings for CMA Fest because it's a popular weekend. So you basically
Okay,
blocked
but-
out certain dates before our hearing, assuming that in March you could actually book.
Well, no, because if it doesn't go through, I'll have to either leave it empty or find another solution. So we'll obviously not be able to continue.
So the dates that you have blocked out now, are those for you to stay there or for
Yes,
other people?
for us to resolve this situation.
No, that's not what I'm asking. Like, right now, June 7th through 11th, they're blocked off. They have.
Yes, that's my birthday.
So those are for you to stay.
Those are dates that I know I'm back in
And
town.
May 25th and 26th is you?
They're usually with dates where I believe I'm back in town.
Okay.
But again, generally, I don't look at beyond the month ahead.
Is it a coincidence that that is CMA Fest and Memorial Day weekend?
But
Yeah,
it's
which I
also-
would book out for myself to attend.
But it's only 2 days blocked off too, so it's not.
Yeah,
like
again, there's not a very
Memorial Day
simple thing.
weekend, but it's like Friday and Saturday blocked off, not, so I mean,
But can you show up to the present in terms of this week and the fact that I'm not actively intent? I could have just blocked off the rest of the year, but I didn't.
But now, do you actually have to, when you, because we've had this before, if it's open, let's say I didn't take it off, it's not like a hotel where I just go in and I get a reservation online, right? Don't you have to actually have some kind of correspondence with the person and you have to
No, it's
approve
just,
it?
but getting back to what I said earlier, Councilman Lady Allen wrote in her legislation, the listing itself is a violation without a permit.
Advertisement. Is
Yes.
the violation.
That's, whether you book it or not,
Right.
whether you ever rent it or
I
not.
understand that, but I'm just saying.
Board member, it would require input from the property owner. She would have to affirmatively accept the listing, the
But
booking.
as I said, the
I
listing
understand,
itself
I understand.
is a violation.
But the whole thing is, I know.
Mr. Osborne, please show that to the applicant and their lawyer.
No, I'm sorry. It was my oversight to consciously only book up to the point where I thought I would have a resolution, in which case I would fully be removing
Why did you
the
think, so
listing
you probably
or not.
know, and I'm sure your lawyer told you, that you lost your permit potentially for a year, right? Because of you're in violation of the law?
No, it was May 7th. The last check I had written, it was May 7th,
I
May
know,
of 2017.
But the violation of being in violation of the short-term rental permit is a year from being able to rent again. Did your lawyer tell you that?
To rent short-term.
To rent short-term. If you don't have a permit and you're in violation of our law, you have to wait a year until you reapply, you're able to apply for a permit.
Yes, sir, we understand, but that's
so
why
you're
we're seeking
okay.
reissuance of the permit
But
rather than
so
reapplication.
why I bring that up is, if he told you that, why would you think that this would be resolved in February?
Because it was a reinstatement of a permit. It wasn't an issuing of a new permit because I wasn't.
That's
But why would
correct.
you think that we would reinstate this and you would be good by February? What made you think that that would happen at this meeting today?
I've spoken with individuals in the codes department that indicated that this was how things of this nature were handled.
But at the end of the day, the codes department, under this circumstance, doesn't have the power to allow you to reapply. It's these members of this board.
I understand that, and we were informed that this board would have the power to reissue as opposed to
We do have the
reapply.
power, but why did you think that she would be eligible in February for something that potentially is up to a year?
just due to the nature of her operating her STRP as a model STRP operator, with the exception of the instances we've discussed today that are simply oversights. You know, this simply is, I mean, this is not an instance of an STRP operator who has complaints, who rents to the type of people that neighbors disapprove of, who doesn't pay their fees or pays them late. This is simply a $50 fee that was an oversight while traveling for employment.
Questions for the applicant or their lawyer? Anything else to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion. So at our last meeting, we had someone here that said that they didn't know. And, you know, every case is different. This person said that they were out of the country, and they were clearly, by their own letter, one of the first to receive one of these permits in Nashville. And yes, they didn't send us $50 to the codes department, which would have easily renewed their permit. So now they're in front of us because I think the troubling thing about this case is that they continue to list out in the future after February that basically they thought that this would be resolved, I guess, at this meeting, and then they'd be able to come back.
Yeah, you know, I've been playing around with that because we've heard just about everything, and I get it. And I mean, the troubling piece of it is that it's the troubling piece of it, that it was rented and that there was testimony that that kind of sounded really nice, and then the reality was like a little less nice. And I get that, but the good part is that, you know, they did have a permit, they were paying taxes, they were doing things right, and you know, I kind of think of it as, you know, well, should you have known? Should you have not have known? You know, there probably was a stop work order, cease and desist letter, or something like that. Which meant that they really shouldn't have rented that in January and chose to, and I think that's an offense that needs some consideration. But I also think that, you know, when my tag expired in December and I got my emissions test and my renewal in January 3rd, there wasn't an ounce of me that thought I was going to pay more than the $70 to do it. And
there was no host compliance for your tag.
Yeah, nobody came hunting me down, and I knew that the worst case is I'd get a ticket, you know, and I'd pay a fine, and I wouldn't be penalized from driving for a year. Now, had I known that, I would have absolutely gotten it in December when it was up. But I think that that's a fairly common thing. I think that it is shocking to folks that the potential penalty is as dramatic as it is if you have a legally issued permit, but that's just the way the rules are. So, I mean, I guess to me the January thing says that I'm not completely inclined for zero, but I don't think it's more than, you know, half the times, half year or something. I don't think it's anything like that.
Other comments?
I tend to agree with David. It is troublesome to me. This is what happens when people that aren't schooled or educated in doing this kind of thing try to do it on their own. The problem here, and we've had this situation before, she employs a property manager and some kind of, I don't know what their fee sharing arrangement is. She has a property manager who she relied on. We've had other situations where the manager has come in and through their own oversight or action, and we were lenient with the property owner in that regard. But I think we do need to make sure people understand that they are responsible for those actions. And because the lack of communication, what we were told was she canceled her scheduled bookings, which apparently she did. She immediately removed the property from all listing services, which did not happen, and refrained from renting the property in any form. That didn't happen either. And so as a result of her failure to communicate with the property manager, that's where we are. And there was a listing. So to me...
And there still is a listing.
And there is... one coming.
But it's listed.
I mean,
But
it's
you can't
listed,
rent
it's still
out-
listed,
It's
it's
rented
not
out
booked.
past February. You
That's
can
right.
rent
It's
it.
And I
It's still
get a little
listed.
bit of how people don't know. I mean, that,
I know, I agree.
I'm empathetic with that piece of it because half the folks come and don't even really know, I mean, I get that piece. I mean, I get that it's a violation, but I also understand.
I'm
Other-
inclined to make her wait
other-
30 days.
Other discussion? Motion, anyone?
make
Mr.
a
Chairman,
motion.
before you field a motion, could staff solicit and then give to the board one point of clarification, just in case it helps?
You have not applied for a new permit.
No.
No. No.
Mr. Chairman, the point of clarification for the board, and I think it's procedurally important, is that the case before you is a request to reinstate a permit that expired in whatever we said, May of 2017. There was no new application for a new permit. If there were, you would be talking about a potential reduction in the wait time before they would be eligible to obtain that new permit. That's the standard case before the board, but that's not the case before the board. You instead have much more of a yes-no question in front of you. Do you wish to make a motion, have it passed by the board that would allow the appellant to have the permit treated as not expired, conditioned, of course, upon submitting the appropriate affidavit and paying whatever the fee is, or not?
But what
In the
about
latter
though
scenario, it's not a question of 1 year. There's,
But we have-
absent a new
we have-
application.
We have Mr. Osborne here. He looked at his computer. It's active listing, so we're just not, that's not anything for us to consider today?
I think it's absolutely something to consider, but I think the request before you is the yes-no question of whether or not to reinstate a now expired permit.
But now, and I guess, but the agenda doesn't, the agenda says it's an item A because it was, the permit was denied because they operated prior.
Correct, and if that is the standard language that yielded that spit out on our agenda, I can only apologize. That's why I specifically sought clarification from the appellant through counsel that the request that was made was for a reinstatement of a now expired permit, not a new application, because there was no new application made. Now, today, tomorrow, the appellant could go in and make a new application based upon prior operation. We have every reason to expect it would be denied, and that action would be appealable to the Board of Zoning Appeals, thus triggering the question of 1 year, I suppose. But that's not what's before the board.
So then I have a legal question for legal counsel. Is it possible to add conditions to a reinstatement of an expired permit?
I'm not sure the law contemplates that. I think that you would either,
I mean, if I
Again.
reinstated if we voted to reinstate an expired permit, is that effective at a date we choose, or is it effective immediately?
that is not actually, that, I don't think that's contemplated in the law, black or white. So if you want to, it's an item A appeal, so your job is to determine whether or not the failure to reissue the permit was an error or not. If it was not an error, then I think, if y'all think that it should have been renewed, or that she should be allowed to renew it, then I think she would be allowed to renew it. If y'all determine that it was properly expired and therefore not reissued, then I think you would uphold the zoning administrator's decision. If you determine that she should be able to, renew it, then I think that was probably now, because there's nothing in the law that says that there are conditions on renewal.
We
If you
can't say
determine-
she could renew it at this date?
The only time frames that are specifically set forth in the short terminal ordinance are with respect to denial of a permit due to operating without a permit. This application, as Mr. Michael pointed out, is an appeal of the failure to reissue it. So I think you either need to say it should have been reissued and she can come in and it can be reissued, or you should say it was correctly not reissued because it had expired and therefore she should
I guess the problem
reapply.
I have here is, we spend all this money on hosts. We have Mr. Osborne here who works very hard at all this, and it's kind of a two-prong case. It's the failure to not renew, but now it's also advertising and renting, and there's proof of that, without a permit. And it sounds like basically that part is just off the table.
Well, I think those are two different cases. I think you look at the failure to renew And if you determine that it was properly not reissued, then she would have to reapply. And then if she reapplies, we would go through the next step and the next.
So we just heard the second hearing before we heard the first hearing, is what I'm hearing.
Well, it was a lot of, I mean, she was getting into whether or not she was operating, but as her attorney pointed out, and as Mr. Michael received clarification on, she is here applying for operating with an expired permit, operating with an unintentionally expired permit, are the reasons listed on her application.
So I guess so if she hadn't, then remind us of what the law is. If your permit expires, if my permit expires 12/31 and it is 1/2 and I come down to renew it, what happens?
There's a grace period, right, John Michael?
There's a 30-day grace period that's available under the local law for properties that have no violations or accusations of violations. So assuming a clean record, which would probably fit here, within 30 days of the expiration date in May of 2017, they still could have come in and renewed. Okay. Beyond that, you're denied. That denial is something, meaning the renewal is denied. That denial of a renewal can go to the board to see if there was, in fact, an error on the part of staff. But to make a new application, I would note here forgive me for speculating a little bit, but I don't think I'm out of bounds to do so. This is an R6 zoned property. This is a Type 2 permit. As you know, with the pending legislation, Council Bill 2017-608, that is a permit that does not issue. Therefore, even if there was a brand new application, there would likely be an immediate denial based upon the condition of the law pursuant to Council Bill 2017-608, which does not allow the issuance of Type 2 permits in R or RS zoned properties, at least not presently. Thus, that would be something that's appealable to the Board of Zoning Appeals to determine whether or not the staff erred in interpreting the law that way, that very clear black letter law. But nevertheless, it would be appealable. So again, that's getting a couple of steps ahead, but it is likely the basis by which the appellants, in my humble opinion, wisely chose to seek a reinstatement of a now expired permit rather than making a new application and then challenging the bar put in place by 608.
And I think to follow up on that, the bar that is put in place by 608 specifically says, as Mr. Michael just pointed out, a 30 calendar day grace period for renewal after the expiration of the short-term rental permit may be allowed by the zoning administrator. So I think my understanding from the testimony before you is that she realized in October, her permit expired sometime in May or June. She realized in October that it had expired, came in to get it renewed, and it was not renewed because more than 30 days had passed. So the decision before the board today is whether or not it should have been renewed more than 30 days after the expiration. If you determine that it was correctly not renewed, as Mr. Michael also just pointed out, her next step would be to reapply.
Which isn't possible in my case.
I guess I'm confused with what John Michael just said. Are you saying that if she had said, okay, it's expired, I'm applying for a new one, that in fact, because of the zoning of this property, that it would invoke a Type 2 for which no one can get right now?
That's close, but not quite.
Okay.
R6 zoned properties are a zoning district that it does not allow the issuance of a Type 2 permit under the current state of the law. So an owner-occupied permit would be fine. Type 3 multifamily and a multifamily structure pursuant to the definitions of the Metropolitan Code and the short-term rental property regulations would potentially be allowed. But Type 2 STRP permits are not allowed in R or RS zoned properties under the current state of the law.
Well, why did you bring that up? Would she have been applying for a Type 2?
Because that is the non-owner occupied properties. The address that the appellant gave us for her mailing address was a Los Angeles address. Also, the prior permit was a Type 2 permit, so we would have assumed continuation barring a change in circumstances, which of course would have necessitated documentation to that effect.
Thank you. That
David,
clears it up.
I don't know if this is proper or not, but I read the docket and was thinking of this as we have thought of most of these, and I think the rest of the board may have been too, since we went straight to a penalty-type discussion rather than the discussion on whether we should reinstate the permit. And I think it would be helpful to me, I don't know if it would be helpful to you, to give the appellant's attorney maybe a minute or 2 minutes to just summarize on this specific question, the yes/no reinstatement of the permit, what is the case and why we should do it. Is that fair? Yep. Because I do think it would summarize that argument, because I think based on John's
I'd also like to have counsel direct some comments toward the address of the appellant. If the appellant actually lives in Los Angeles,
is this a
then it
type
would-
1 or type 2?
Right, is this a type 1 or type 2?
Okay, can I throw something out for my colleagues? I'm just sort of thinking about it. If we were of an inclination, for reasons that we've talked about, to I'll say to attempt to preserve the permit, but we are concerned about the circumstances in which we find ourselves, we could ask the applicant if they wanted, I'm wondering if we could suggest a month deferral so that counsel could prepare his argument. We could make sure that there are no listings on Airbnb, those kinds of things, come back, make that check, and then make a decision without further proof.
I'd like to interject. That's precisely what I was discussing with Mr. Michael. If the board would like, we can defer for 30 days, 60 days, however long the board was contemplating for a penalty period, for lack of a better word, and in the interim, do all the things we need to do.
Remove all the listings?
Yeah,
do all the things we need to do. Do everything that needs to be done. And at that point, I understand that the penalty period is kind of outside the realm right now, but we'd be happy to defer it for however long the board would like. Then we can come back, do this again, and at that point, the question will be, should the permit be reissued or not? And at that point, I think the board can make the proper determination as to that yes or no question at that time.
So
There's one more thing I would like to call your attention to. On Tuesday night, the council will be voting on a new law, perhaps, or maybe not. We don't know yet. And you do need to take that into account, because then if you defer, you will be operating under whatever that new law is. We now know what settled law is, but that's going to be unsettled.
Yes, ma'am.
And it may be a new city law, it may be a new state law, it may be no law.
And, sorry, just to say one last thing. I'm just saying, as a homeowner, I've been trying to do everything I can to comply, which is shown by all of my hotel tax, all of my sales tax, all my property tax, all of my business licenses. And I thought the main argument was this: that I missed a $50 renewal fee, and I wanted just the reinstatement of that.
Right, and I made that.
And I thought that, sorry, wasn't a year great. I wasn't under that.
Right, and I think I made that point when we were having our discussion, that to empathize with that, but and certainly understand why anyone would think that, but that's not the way the rule is, which you obviously didn't know. So,
but is the legal implication if they phase out, if type 2 is phased out entirely, it doesn't matter. We can't help her preserve it, even if we were inclined.
Yeah, but I don't think that's on any of.
I thought there were 3, but whatever the result is, she's going. What is the status? If she's got a type 2 today, she hasn't lost it yet because it's still on appeal because she's before us. Is that right, John?
Incorrect. Does not stay. That expired formally in May, regardless of the absence of notice. She received notice in October, so there is no permit. That was an inaccurate understanding that was expressed earlier. There has not been a legal permit at this location since May.
Okay. So if we reissue her, allow her to, if we find that it should have reissued, then she will have a permit that will be subject to whatever the new law is going forward.
That's correct. I believe if the board were to determine that the permit should have been or should reissue, we're talking about the original 2015 permit. So whatever legally nonconforming or grandfathering type concepts that would apply to other similarly situated properties or permits would apply to this permit as well. Again, depending on what version of a law passes, we can't foresee what amendments to the ordinances might be put forth at the 11th hour and become part of the discussion.
Sure. But the alternative is, if we do what I was sort of discussing, if we defer it, then, and the law changes to disallow this permit, she's without a permit. Or if it grandfathers in, she's without a permit because she doesn't have one today.
Right, and that's the operative point. She doesn't have one today. So regardless of what the council does, that is still the starting point for this appellant.
Okay. Well, counsel, does that change your position?
Well, without knowing what's going to happen on Tuesday, it's a little hard to make that comment.
Well, even Tuesday's a second reading, so it's not even the third. Is it third?
There could be a new car behind door number 3 or a zonk.
And to the to the extent the board is voting on a yes or no question, whether you can attach conditions to that, in that should the board vote yes, if we can voluntarily comply with any sort of penalty period or abeyance period, happy to do something like that. But without knowing what's going to happen on Tuesday, if anything, we don't really know how to proceed on that.
So you don't know how to proceed, so how should we proceed, board members? I guess I can. Let's close the public hearing. How should we proceed?
Okay. I mean, I've kind of stated my position is, I think punishment of some sort is appropriate. I don't know that we have the ability to do that in this circumstance. But I know we've had a lot of discussion, but I think the only way we can get this applicant to a position is to find that the permit should have reissued.
But what's that based on? Because, I could see people coming to us in the future, 6 months, their permit expired, and it's like, well, I just didn't send it in, give me my permit.
I don't think I've ever heard of reissuing. You have a permit or you don't. And if you don't pay your fee, you don't have a permit. It's not reissued, it's renewed. There's a difference in the word renewal and reissue.
You're right.
And if she had paid the 50, it would have been renewed, but it was not. So there is no permit.
But where's the line? So the city has put this is the date you have to renew, and as John Michael said, there's a 30-day grace period even after that. And so.
But they also, I never received anything in the mail. Oh, sorry.
So what do we do in these kind of cases?
What do you think, Alma? Ms. Sanford?
Well, I'm thinking that our choices are very limited because there is no permit. And as John Michael has explained this, we don't have the option of saying reissue because it's not a reissue. That's not before us. So I think our options are extremely limited.
Well, now, if we don't have the authority to reissue, why are we?
Actually, that might have been a little bit confused in its receipt. I intended to say and communicate that the reissuance or renewal, allowance of a renewal, is all that's before the board. There is no new application that got denied and is now before the board for a reduction in the 1-year wait period that would otherwise be enforced by law. Instead, it's just a question of, does the board wish to allow them to renew the permit that expired in May?
Discussion.
Well, what do you think, Mr. Taylor?
So it's been 5 months. So we have to weigh that too. It's not 2 months, not 3 months, it's 5 months.
It is somebody, which I think is important.
And paid all taxes and.
Without complaints. That was one of the reasons that the 30-day grace period would have existed.
But also, it's currently listed and they listed one after they told us it wasn't.
Are you all not bothered by the fact that John Michael told us this appellant listed a Los Angeles address and that it is now currently not viable to issue a Type 2 permit? As I understand the current law, that's not an option.
Well, I mean, I guess if you think that they, if you feel like that they were operating other than having the piece of paper pretty much above board, then to me that's not as relevant, just because, again, they forgot to get their tag right, and so, but yet that was an okay thing when they did it, and I don't know, I guess it is still a Type 2.
Well, was it issued as a Type 1 or a Type 2? No one's ever made that.
The original permit was a Type 2 permit, so it's perfectly fine that a Type 2 permit holder live out of state.
So they're not behaving in a way different than their permit.
Well, I was just going to add that it seems like it's listed, but I didn't see any bookings in the future.
But as we talked about, and if Berkeley were here, Councilman Allen, the posting is a violation. And we remember the cases before we had authority to do less than a year, that would get you a year, posting without a permit. And the thing that I don't like about the posting is they went out of their way to basically not post it this month, but at some time in the future when they thought, oh, I'll get my permit by that time, so I could still get those listings, as opposed to completely taking it down. And I also don't like that we asked, is there posting down? And Mr. Osborne here basically had to tell us otherwise, that you can book something in the future. The weird thing about this, of course, as we talked about, they're asking for this to be reinstated. And I think 6 months is just, or 5 months is just way too long in our window for this to happen.
What do you mean when you say 5 months?
So basically, they got the notice to renew in May or whatever, and they didn't, or when it's been 5 months.
Yeah, but do they get a notice? I didn't think.
No.
I don't think.
If I could answer that question, they don't get, Metro does not send out notices that it's, now,
Okay, well, their permit expired.
the law says a permit expires after 365 days, so that's the notice.
Okay,
You don't
so
send out.
their notice was, they didn't renew timely, so I'll say
Correct,
that.
and then the notice they received was in October when Mr. Osborne sent a notice
Okay.
that said you've been operating without a valid permit.
And she filed her item A appeal immediately upon receipt of her.
But the point,
To clarify, the law does not,
okay,
the law doesn't require us to
but
send
it took them
notices, and we don't
5
send
months
notices.
to kind of do something until, and obviously, they didn't do anything until they got the October.
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
Because what happens when someone else comes in front of us and says, look, I didn't send my $50 in, and it's been 5 or 6 months later, give me my permit,
Well, I think maybe after Tuesday, we won't be hearing much of anything if they vote on something, but, well, I mean, I get it, but, every case is different, and does it open the floodgates? I think part of the reason that this case has taken so long and that we've given it so much time is, believe it or not, anybody watching and anybody thinking that you've heard it all after hearing a year and a half of these cases, no, we haven't. I don't think we've ever heard a case like this. We've never heard this request that I remember. And so just that fact alone says that there probably is not a floodgate behind it of folks just waiting to come and say, hey, yeah, I forgot I had a legitimate permit, and I just forgot to renew. And I think that the law, any law change, one way or the other, may negate our authority to hear it anyway. So I'm not as worried about that. And like I said, I mean, there's some troubling behavior. I get a sense that folks are trying to think through what is the path for allowing this to continue in a way that meets the law, and it seems like it's a difficult one, but I think the desire is certainly there to maybe to kind of resolve this, because I think that people that pay their taxes and do all that other stuff, I mean, I truly empathize, although I know what the law says, I truly empathize with somebody that says, I forgot to get my sticker.
But what about the postings in the future? That's big to me. That basically, and it's not only the postings, it's telling us that you took them down and they weren't.
I think that matters, and I think if we were looking at the different question, we would have probably resolved it a good
But
bit ago.
our lawyer says that we can take that into consideration.
No, I mean, I think we can consider it, but we're considering it in a yes/no fashion, which then has different burdens on the applicant. I get it. But
So, does someone want to have a motion?
Go out on a limb, why not? I will move that we reinstate the permit.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I just don't think that this is the right thing to do, but it sounds like other people might, to reinstate the permit. That's the motion.
That's the only thing we can do. Yes or no?
You could not reinstate the permit.
Well, right, yes or no?
I think the options before the board today are to renew the permit or not to renew the permit.
Okay.
There is a proper.
So the proper motion's on the floor is to renew the permit. So, any more discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of this motion to renew the permit signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Oh, I'm on the fence on it.
More dead air for Metro National Network, but always exciting at your Board of Zoning Appeals meetings. We need one of those test patterns that they used to have back in the day. Mr. Taylor.
I'll vote for the motion.
Okay. That means 4 in favor, 2 against. Motion passes. John Michael, next case.
Thank you, board members.
Mr. Chair, if we could take a brief break before our next case. Item A appeal regarding a short-term rental permit that was denied based upon prior operation at the subject property before obtaining the legally required permit. The aerial photograph here shows you the court in question, the face of the property from the photograph on the assessor's website. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 401? Seeing none, oh, there is. Therefore, the appellant will have 10 minutes to make the desired presentation. Then we'll hear from the opponents thereafter. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Kevin Smith, the owner of 203 Queens Lane Court, Nashville, Tennessee, 37218.
And I'm Charlene Smith, his spouse. My address is 203 Queens Lane Court.
Okay, why are we here? What happened?
We're here just seeking to continue the application process, which we've pretty much finished. We've had the fire marshal come out as the last step. Until we received.
So let's back up a little.
Yeah.
You've been renting before you had a permit.
I rented before.
How did that happen?
I rented before I had a project. New to the process. It was totally my fault.
I have to channel our council lady Berkeley Allen again, and if she were here, she would say, "Why didn't you know there was a license, and why didn't you get a license before you rented?"
Exactly.
No, but what's the answer to that question?
Well, I was new to the process.
But you didn't know that there was a license for these?
I did know that there was a license to this. Did not.
And then
know
why did you rent without a license?
New to the process, didn't understand the ramifications of the process and things like that.
So I think Councilor Allen, if she was also here, it's very similar to having a driver's license. Yes, you could drive a car without a driver's license, but you're not supposed to.
Right.
So you knew you weren't supposed to rent without a license, and you didn't have one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are you asking us to do then?
Well, we've, since getting the understanding, doing the research, and finding out what all we needed to do, we have gone through the entire process with the letters, everything in the system. We have gone all the way to the process of getting the fire marshal to come out and approve everything within the house. And then we received the cease operation notice, which we've done and complied with everything from that point. And then we're here.
So we have some people in opposition who will speak after you, but given that you knew that there was laws related to short-term rentals and you chose not to get a permit and you chose to rent them without a permit, why should we allow you to apply anytime soon to have a permit?
Well, didn't operate grossly outside of the
grossly, what does that mean?
Well,
Are you talking about number of times? Or are you talking about the type of people?
The number of times, I would say.
So how many times did you rent it?
And we really weren't familiar with the process in general and the things that we needed to do. And once we became aware of that, we did take the necessary steps in trying to go through
Okay,
the
so
process.
yeah, let's get to that. So I imagine Mr. Osborne or someone sent you a letter saying to cease and desist because you don't have a permit.
Yes, sir.
So
Or
when
even
did-
kind of, I'm sorry to
Oh, but
interrupt.
what were you saying before?
Even before that, when we started looking into it, we were like, okay, we needed to get these things done before we started operating. So we started the process even before we got the cis and desist order.
Yes. Okay.
It was just a couple of weeks, though.
Did
And
you cancel any future permits that future bookings that were coming to
we
your property?
did cancel one that was in October.
And did anybody come to your property after you got your letter from Mr. Osborne?
No, not other than family members and ourselves.
Okay. Question for the applicants. Okay, we're going to hear from the opposition too. So,
Yes, sir.
but before we hear from the opposition, we're going to hear from Mr. Osborne about
Sure.
how. Oh, nope.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Tell us how we heard about this, and are there any non-permit related complaints about this property?
On September the 30th, we received a hotline call, direct call, not an email, and it was reporting that it was operating without a permit. That was verified on October the 5th. Notification of violation was sent. October the 12th, the stop work order was posted at the property, at which time I knocked on the door and received no answer. On the 23rd, I received a call from Mr. Smith, the applicant, and we discussed the matter and the procedure. He told me he had canceled his current booking, and the reinspection date was slated for the 26th of October, which time the ad was down. I also checked on the date that I received the call from Mr. Smith, the 23rd. It was down at that point. So he was in compliance at that point and chose to attempt to get a permit and was denied, and then filed for appeal with the board. There were 5 documented stays between April and September. Therefore, all evidence I have show that the October booking was indeed canceled.
Okay. Any questions for Mac here?
I didn't hear the last thing you said. Did you say something was canceled in October?
The documented stays went April through September, of which there were 5 in number. The booking that they had in October, there's no evidence that that took place, and so I assume that it was indeed canceled.
Any other questions for our other inspector, Mr. McBaum? Thank you for doing all this. Okay, so we're going to hear from the opposition, so please, actually, anything to respond to what he just said? He said he sent you a notice,
No,
you stopped.
he's absolutely right.
Okay.
We canceled the last booking, and around the October time period, and October 9th is when I actually talked to the Nashville Fire Department, and Inspector Loney came out.
Okay.
On the 20th.
So go back into the audience, and we're going to hear from the opposition, and you'll have a chance to respond.
Thank you.
So thank you. Please, opposition, please come forward. Mr. McBaum.
Mr. Chairman, if I might add, you asked me if there were any additional complaints.
Yes.
Of which there were two.
Two, okay. What kind of?
Were not verifiable violations.
Okay, so someone made a complaint, but you looked into it and you didn't find anything. Okay, gotcha. So please come forward, those in opposition to this case, and take a seat, press the red button, and identify yourself and address for the record and why you were in opposition. You could all sit. We'll pull the chair up. And if you're speaking, speak close to the microphone so we can have a record of this, especially on Metro Nashville Network. So who wants to start us?
Hello.
Oh, press, if the button was already on. Yes, there we go.
Okay. Hello, I'm Veranda Orr, and my address is, mailing address again is 4201 Edens Creek Road, but my address on the map is 201 Queens Lane Court.
So you live right next door?
Right next door.
Okay. So why are you in opposition to this?
Well, I'm not going to bash my neighbor because they have been very good neighbors, but they moved to Atlanta some years ago, and so they're not even there. So what's happening now, they were renting the place in August. They had like maybe 4 Mexican over there, and they were out on the back porch. I can look out of my kitchen window right on the back porch, and they had 3 Mexican over there, and they were smoking marijuana. And so then my minister, social minister of my church said, well, how you know? I said, well, you can smell it, but then I don't think that haven't seen no one pass cigarettes around, for everybody to take a puff off of. And so then they had the Alabama game, and they were over there, and so one neighbor said, did you hear him cursing over there? And I said, no, I didn't hear that.
I think a lot of Georgia fans were cursing, actually.
I said, no, I didn't hear that. I'm not going to tell that. But then another one came around, and she said, oh, you see all those people over there and everything. So, I mean, they operate without a license, and it's not that they didn't know, because I can't bring up the other case, but another one across, it was going back and forth. They knew that they had to have a permit to operate over there.
Ma'am, you said that your neighbors moved away. When did they move away?
Oh, probably. He had had a job down in Atlanta for a long time. Then he took his family down there. I'm going to say about 3 years ago.
So it's been years ago.
Yes. And see, they have been my neighbors for I was there I've been there 38 years. And so they've been there probably 18 or 19, something like that. And they have been very good neighbors because I used to see them barbecue on the back porch. We say, hey, Smith, and all that. But it's like, we just don't like what they are doing. I mean, having people coming over there doing different things, like at night, we couldn't sleep because they out there on the back talking and all that. Cars parked up, like one neighbor, see, like they were saying the other time, these old people don't want to get involved. They just really don't. And so the one neighbor said, they had like 15 cars parked down there. We had to bring up the other case the other time because another time, it wasn't Smith, but it was like 30 cars. So this is like, I was just so upset. I just called and I said, this is not Queens Lane's court. This is Party City Court. So that's all I have to say.
So what are you asking us to do?
Denied.
Okay. So next, please
And
state
then
your
he
name.
sent us a letter, like a certified letter, telling us he was getting ready to get a permit.
Yeah.
He was already doing it, because he has been doing it. He was doing it. It was a lady coming over there. She was a Caucasian lady, and she had like a, what was it? Little cart, like whatever you call it, on the back of, and like I think she was in music or something, and it was black and it was trimmed in silver. See, I've been retired 15 years. I can see all of this, and so anyway, they call me the mayor of Eaton's Creek Road. Anyway, so I'm telling you, so she was, and we're like, what is she doing on the back porch? And so then. But then we said, well, maybe she, and then just different things just started happening. So, hey, that was it. Okay, so you can take over now.
No, I just like to say.
Please state your name and your address.
Okay, I'm sorry. My name is Luther Orr at same one, 201 Eden Creek Road. I'm at Queens Lane Court. My thing is just in opposition. When they had the football game over there, I had to go over and ask the guys to move the cars off my grass, off the yard. And it's a noise, because once again, with the other gentleman she was talking about that was, I know they were smoking the marijuana-like stuff. My bedroom is here, and our house is there. All the night while they were there, I never got a chance to sleep because they was talking and whatever all night long.
To how late?
Every time I would wake up until the wee hours of the morning.
Past 1 o'clock?
Oh, yes. And this is, I know you've heard it before, is the big reason for opposing that short-term rental. You call it short-term rental, but I call it short-term party. That's what it amounts to. So that is my opposition to it.
Okay. Next, please state your name and your address.
My name is Rosa Coleman. I live at 4223 Eaton's Creek Road. I disagree with the short-term rental because it causes too much distraction for neighbors. We moved into that area, some of us 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And we thought, we had found a place where we could have peace and quiet. But it has, it has changed. You can't sleep, a lot of noise, just a lot of distraction. Now,
how long have you lived in the Gold Coast?
I have lived there over 40 years.
Okay. So why are you in opposition to this?
I'm in opposition because it's too much distraction.
And have you witnessed or heard anything particularly about this?
There are, yes, I have. Some people live closer than I do, but, I've seen a lot of cars parked up there. But the first reason I don't think the applicant should be provided a permit is they operated without a permit. Now, we are, I think, well, some of us are, no, we're a city of law-abiding citizens. But they operated without a permit. Therefore, I don't think they should be allowed a permit.
Let's hear from the next person.
I would say 3 years.
3 years.
Could I say one more thing?
Of course.
I attended the last council meeting.
When everybody got up there and spoke for hours
Yes.
and hours and hours.
I heard a lot of people say they can't sleep at night. Some have children. Their children have to get up and go to school. Of course, the adults have to get up and go to work. But with a lot of noise at night, they can't sleep. So I really just disapprove of the short-term rental, period. Because as I said, you know, we bought our houses, some people over 50 years ago. They thought they had found a neighborhood.
Gold Coast?
You know, where they could have some peace and quiet. But things have changed.
Yep.
And I just don't approve of all of the new stuff that's coming to Nashville.
Okay.
When some of those people said, some of those people at that meeting said they had to move out of their own houses, find somewhere else to live, because there was so much distraction around their homes.
Okay. Let's hear from the last person. Your name, your address.
Walter Holloway, address 4214 Eden Creek Road.
Why are you in opposition?
Well, in the first place, ignorance of the law is no excuse to operate a business without a lease. And my observance of the Mexicans smoking dope, urinating outside, and using drugs outside, and drinking, so that's something that we're not used to, and that's something we don't want to accept in our neighborhood. And so that's one of the main reasons. It was brought to my attention by one of the other residents, and I had my mailbox. I can look straight across the street to observe that. And so I just told him to just call the police, you know, because I'm a retired officer, you know, but I couldn't go over there and take no action myself. And I think another time where they was kind of half-dressed over there, you know, in the opening. So this is something that we shouldn't allow.
What do you mean half-dressed? Is this just how young people dress, or really half-dressed? Okay, that's half-dressed.
So I think we should deny the lease.
Okay, any questions for the opposition?
I just was curious, did you make complaints at the time of these incidents, either with your neighbors or with the hotline?
I did.
Yes, with the hotline, yes.
I did.
And I want to say one thing. It was my fault for not calling Metro when I saw them smoking over there. I assumed that responsibility and I messed up.
And can you summarize how many times did these infractions occur?
Different ones?
Yeah, about how many times have you seen this behavior on the property? Just a summary of all your complaints,
I
like
would
5
say
times, 10
with
times?
those guys and the traffic and me asking them to, you know, to not park on my grass and on my property, probably 3 or 4 infractions. Yes.
Does that summarize for all of you, that there was 3 or 4 times? Or is there additional times?
Just different times.
Different times. Different times.
Okay, so 3 or 4, and then you all have some to add on to that?
No.
Could you tell me how many more times?
No, I guess it would, unless anybody else said, I'm saying it's been about at least 4 infractions due to this property.
For all of you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for being here. We're going to hear from the applicant, so thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Will the applicant come forward and you have a chance to respond to what was just said? Okay, so most of these people are either your immediate neighbors or lived close by. I wanted to ask you, do you live in Atlanta?
I live in Atlanta. We commute back and forth.
How long have you lived in Atlanta?
My wife's a consultant.
12, 13 years.
And so who lives in the house?
Now.
We stay in the house. My daughter stays in the house.
But your daughter isn't part of this application, is she?
No, she's not.
Okay.
But she stays in our home.
But you all are in Atlanta?
Yes, I'm in Atlanta. My wife is a consultant. She's back and forth. So we have 2 residents here. We have our license. We pay taxes. Our registrations are here in Nashville, Tennessee.
Your driver's license?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
We file our federal taxes as Tennessee residents.
So how do you respond to all that?
I'll state what Mrs. Orr stated, that I don't have any malice against Mrs. Orr. I've always thought them to be good neighbors. More so than not, we've kept apart, never really had any type of run-ins. I'll state, just for our sake, that I am also a 40-year-plus resident of that area. I grew up around the corner on Setters Road. I've been there for all my life. My grandfather was one of the first African-American police officers in Nashville, John W. Smith. My brother is a Metro police sergeant, along with my first cousin. My first cousin is also a deputy sheriff with the sheriff's department.
Now, my colleagues here will probably tell you I like to hear those kind of things from people, but they probably don't think that's relevant.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that from that standpoint, I apologize for cutting you off, Mr. Chairman, but we are
those are kind of things personally I like, but
we are respectful of the neighborhood, and we understand what law and order is. We don't in our Airbnb bio, we state that there should be no loitering
After 8
p.m. That is in our contract, and we expect those people to abide by it.
No parties.
No parties is also in our bio.
If they say people are being loud past 1 o'clock or smoking marijuana or being naked or whatever, I mean, how would you respond to that? And how would you know if you're living in Atlanta?
Like I said, my brother is there.
Your brother's there too?
Pardon me?
Your brother lives in the house too?
No. My brother is part of my family who ensures that there's no...
Is he over there 1 o'clock in the morning checking on the house?
He's not over there 1 o'clock, but he takes care and he looks after our property.
Okay.
Particularly because my daughter is there and she's a single female. So I make sure that my family is taken care of. The first time I've heard this, I mean, typically if you have a good neighbor, if something is going on, you would like to get someone to come to your
But what if you're in Atlanta? How are they going to...
We're here every other weekend.
Every other weekend? But if somebody makes noise on a Wednesday night and you're in Atlanta, how do I tell you?
They have phones. We're a tight-knit family. I mean, they have phone numbers. They've never hesitated to come over before. Never. So this is the first time hearing of this. Now, we did have my sister-in-law staying in our home. She held Bible study on Wednesdays. Tuesdays, I'm sorry. And typically there may have been 7, 8, 9 cars in the cul-de-sac. It's a cul-de-sac. The driveway will only hold 4 cars. So if that's the case, but we've never heard or had never had a complaint from anyone stating, that cars were on the grass. Would you mind if they park somewhere else? Never had any of those complaints. Not one complaint. And we built the house in 1993.
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You say your daughter lives there. Was she there each time you rented those 5 times?
No. My parents, once we get a renter in, my parents live in Nashville. She stays with my parents.
But I thought you said she lives there.
She lives there, but once we had a renter in.
Oh, I didn't hear you
Yes,
when you had a renter.
I'm sorry for the confusion.
Thank you.
But like I said, we're here to be good neighbors. We aspire.
So how do we know that this won't happen in the future? Noise complaints, people partying, it sounds like.
We would do our level best, to ensure that those people who come into the home are qualified applicants.
But there's no way to tell.
There really is. You're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. There's really no way other than to make
the spirit of the original law was if you were living under the same roof or you were nearby or if you got a bunch of complaints, you wouldn't have a permit anymore, that you'd have a real vested interest in making sure that this doesn't happen. Yeah. And it sounds like from the opposition this happened on many occasions.
And I guess, I agree with my husband. I really wish that someone would have brought that to our attention. Coming here and just hearing those types of concerns is concerning to us because we wouldn't want our daughter even going over there to address those kind of situations. If it had been made known to us, we would have immediately called my brother-in-law and said, hey, go over there, something's not right. We really don't want Blair to go over there and check. Would you please go and check? But we never heard of any of those instances happening. We set the site, when we did set the site up, we were very
Adamant.
about, we have a quiet neighborhood. Please don't be out after 8 p.m. That is on the site. The other thing is we said that we don't allow parties. And so we do understand that people will, not adhere to some of your rules and regulations. But again, we would hope that someone would let us know that was going on. Even if we were next door and didn't hear everything that was going on, if someone had kind of said, hey, what's going on over there, we would have been able to address it.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Discussion.
I would like to know if this is a short, type 1 or type 2 permit that was issued.
Type 1 has been applied for, and on the list of documents provided in the legislation that are used to demonstrate owner-occupied status, those have been provided and confirmed as eligible for a Type 1 permit.
And I can't remember if Mr. McDonald said if there were complaints. I think I'd heard maybe 2.
Complaints, but when they went to look into it,
there were calls.
Any violations.
Exactly, there were calls to complain, and they were not able to obtain any evidence that verified those
So there's
complaints.
documentation of complaints, but no verification because.
So if someone says there's a noise complaint or loud music, and then they go there and they don't hear anything, that's just kind of like, okay, we didn't see anything.
The inspectors aren't out at 3 in the morning, I'm sure. Wouldn't expect that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. So our inspectors kind of operate from a 8 to 5 situation. Mac, please come forward. So let's say if at 1 o'clock in the morning, my neighbor has loud music and people are partying, and I call the line, I'm not talking to a real person at 1 o'clock in the morning. You get to your desk at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you go out there because somebody complained 7 hours ago that there was loud music. And of course, if you go out there 7 hours later, you're probably not going to hear anything. Is that how it works?
No, sir. Actually, long before the hotline was instituted, the normal procedure would be to call the non-emergency police line. Now,
but our hardworking police department, I've seen them quote in the paper, they're saying, that's not us, we're not.
They definitely have priorities, and that's understandable. However, they've been very compliant. In fact, they now are even releasing to us documentation concerning complaints. They're now releasing documentation concerning short-term rental complaints, and they're compiling a listing. And
so while it's not high up on the priority list, if it's a slow night in Music City, they might get around to
I cannot
checking on.
speak directly to the level of priority, but I can tell you that there is an emphasis placed on this because these reports are new coming from the police department. It enables us to cross-reference and request documentation. When we have that documentation, we can take that to the zoning administrator and for his consideration to apply a strike against the property.
But, same thing. Let's say because this is so low on the priority list, it's an hour before the police department sends someone out there, they may not see whatever violation was called in because whatever is not going on anymore.
That is true.
Okay. Discussion.
Well, I think that the drafter of this bill would certainly say that a type 1 was more presumed to have people on site. And it doesn't appear that there's even any plan to have a family member on site. Mr. Smith acknowledges he doesn't, most of the time he's in Atlanta.
Yes, well, we've had cases like that, but I guess sadly, under the way the legislation is written, you could kind of be owner occupied, and then when someone rents it, you could go stay with your friend in Hendersonville or go down to Rutherford County for a hotel room under $100 an hour. I mean, hour, $100 a night, and right. So that's not a violation.
Well, and that's an issue with the law that we've seen before too, where people have certainly met all the requirements, and there's not. There is testimony from, I believe, our staff that they had applied and met the requirements. So even though there's a question as to whether it's their true permanent residence or not.
So what we're dealing with is they operated without a permit, documented 5 times. The neighbors are complaining, and now they're asking to be able to apply for a permit. That's what we're here for. So anyone have any suggestions on how this should be resolved?
What we typically ask, as I understand it, they did what we typically ask of people to do when they get the notice. I don't like the fact that they've had complaint from the neighbors, but I do think, having heard what those complaints were, it seems to me that these applicants would put into place the necessary conditions on their website and with their renters. And I would generally be inclined to let them apply in the 4 months from the date of notice, as we've been doing.
Is that a motion?
I'll let you make the motion, but I also think that the condition, the condition would be that they list appropriate behavioral requirements in any advertising that they use for their property.
But what does that mean?
It means that when they list it, they say, guests will not violate our noise ordinances.
No gathering outside after 8 p.m., no smoking, no
reasonable,
loud music.
Just something reasonable, a reasonable expectation of guests that certainly wouldn't be alarming or off-putting to most guests, because most guests would expect to follow those, but just to be explicit about it, so that the owners would have recourse if there were violations. But it's just, I think maybe that's not even feasible, but it just seems like there needs to be some effort on their part, I think, because of the past violations, even though I think that the neighbors would certainly think that they were relevant to the question at hand. What we're really looking at is, by law, they have a right to have a short-term rental. Mm-hmm. They rented without a permit. That requires some type of penalty from 0 to a year.
Okay, so I realize that come Tuesday, you'll have to contact your council person if you want leniency on your short-term rental violation. But, isn't this exactly what, some of our council people have appeared in front of us, said that, here's somebody that knew we had laws and then rented anyway. Neighbors complained, and they just get 4 months and they don't get a year.
Yeah, I'm not making a motion. I'm just saying.
I know, but
I'm just saying that by law they have a right to a permit, which they do, after 0 to a year.
Right, but
somebody can make a motion
whether
whether it's 0, whether it's a year, whether it's 4 months, or whatever.
Punishment is a year, and you have a situation where someone knew, neighbors complained, 4 different neighbors, and they just arbitrarily get some time, right?
What is your motion?
Oh, I'm just saying that maybe 4 months is just a little bit too lenient.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was
considering these circumstances, and I know every case is unique, but we had a case last meeting where there were no complaining neighbors and they got twice as much.
Okay. What do you think is appropriate? I'm amenable to resolving it.
I'd say a year.
You think this is the maximum? They should receive the maximum punishment?
Well, I didn't think the other person
nice
8
families
months.
who all think they're good neighbors come in.
I see somebody that knew that there were laws and rented anyway. And, okay, I'll make a motion of 9 months. They're not eligible to apply for 9 months from the
But
date of the
Ms.
letter.
Chappell's motion was already on the floor, wasn't it? Or-
She didn't make,
Okay,
she didn't
I'm
make a
sorry.
motion.
Would you consider a motion for 6?
Sure, you make it.
I'll make a motion that we find the zoning administrator did not err, and the applicants should be allowed to apply within 6 months from the date of the notice, which I believe was November 22nd.
I want to make an amendment.
I will second it. You want to make an amendment?
Yes, I'd like to ask for it to be from the date of when they applied.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember how you do that. When did they apply?
September.
It is November 22nd.
Okay, that's what I meant. I said the right date and the wrong word on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Motion's been made, properly seconded, and the date which will apply. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
One against?
No, I made the motion.
Okay, everyone unanimous. 6 months. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case before the board is 2017-402. Stacy Cox is the appellant for Highmark BP Developers LLC, the owner of the property on Massman Drive, as shown here in the zoning map, an RM20 zoned property. The request is for a variance from sidewalk requirements in that RM20 district for the construction of apartment complex. The site plan submitted and shown here gives an indication of the proposed layout of the subject property. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 402? Seeing none, the appellants will have 5 minutes to make the needed presentation to the board. I'd ask both of you to please introduce yourselves by name and address, and then take it up with the board.
Hi, Scott Williams, engineer, 4530 Anna Lee Way, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37921. And this is my client.
Robert King, 2013B Castleman Drive here in Nashville.
On behalf of my client, we were asked to request a sidewalk variance for a new construction of an apartment on a small site down off Briley Parkway, Massman Drive. What we'll be asking for in this is that the sidewalk requirement be waived for this frontage along Massman Drive, with the reason of both a topographic and an existing tree line. If you notice up there, running along Massman, there's a very mature, probably 20-plus-year-old pine tree line running along, and it creates a great buffer for the street. And any sidewalk that we'd put in due to the physical parameters would cause, they're in a berm, which is significantly upgrade from the road itself. So to put the sidewalk in would cause us to, of course, cut into that berm and into the trees themselves. The sidewalk requirement's actually a 6-foot grass strip behind the curb and then a 6-foot walk. And the combination of those pushes that walk back far enough, it would, the roots are bound to be out near the curb line as is. So, and of course, pine trees are very susceptible to any kind of disturbance killing them. So we're very hopeful that we might could leave that beautiful tree line in place. We will ask for one curb cut on the site to enter the site over towards the northern end, but we want to minimize the impact there as much as possible. So this is our request that we would like, and if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
Are you asking to pay into the sidewalk fund instead?
We were told at codes that this area was not, there was not a possibility for that, but if that's a possibility, I mean, if that's what this board deems acceptable, we may have to.
John Michael, are they?
The original appeal that was filed on November 22nd specified request no construction of sidewalk, request not to contribute to the sidewalk fund.
But they
that
could
was the
pay into
understanding
the
of staff.
sidewalk fund for this site. This address doesn't have any doesn't prohibit.
Sorry, the case was prepared based upon the appeal that was made by the appellant on that date, and I don't have all the documentation in front of me to get to the bottom of whether it's eligible or not there. Sorry.
In the planning recommendations, it says, the staff recommends that the applicant pay the in lieu contribution and dedicate right-of-way for future sidewalk construction. So I think it must be possible.
Yes, okay. So would you go along with planning's recommendation?
So do you have, I guess, I don't know what dollar amount we're talking there.
$178 per linear foot.
Per linear foot, or what?
Of the frontage of the street on which your property sits.
and it's about 300 feet. Yeah, that would be
Okay.
acceptable.
Any other questions from the board? Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Let's close the public hearing. So they've agreed to pay into the sidewalk fund.
Well, I guess if they agree to pay to the sidewalk fund, that is really disapproving the variance, right?
No. Let's hear from our lawyer.
A condition of a variance can be that you require a contribution to the sidewalk fund.
Yep.
You would basically grant the variance on the condition that they pay to the fund.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misread planning. It says, should we grant it, then they should we grant it?
Okay. Is that good? And I'll make a motion to approve the variance and require them to pay into the in lieu fund for sidewalks.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made, properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Michael.
The next case to be presented to the board is case number 2017-403 involving Toby Standifer, the appellant and owner of the property located at 4559 Clarksville Pike. All apologies if there's any confusion based upon the docket having stated a different street number. It is 4559 Clarksville Pike. The request is for a variance from sidewalk requirements in the RS40 zoning district for the construction of a single-family residence at the property shown in an aerial photograph here, the blank lot. The site plan submitted gives a proposed layout of the property vis-a-vis Clarksville Pike. From my recent visit to the property, the view looking from Clarksville Pike back up into the property and the view directly across the street there in the upper left-hand corner. Finally, the view up and down the presently sidewalk-less Clarksville Pike in these two photographs with this slide. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 403? Seeing no one, the appellants will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board. I would note for the board, the Councilman John Cooper is present as well. You may wish to hear from him first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here today. It's my honor. This is my first matter as the District 1 councilman. And
explain this to us, Councilman Cooper.
So I'm.
Is this because of Vice Mayor Briley has kind of anointed you to
Vice Mayor Briley, in his wisdom, has selected me?
So because your colleagues appointed one of your own to fill a judicial vacancy, there's District 1 once again does not have a council person.
For the fourth time, I'm now the fourth councilman from District 1.
So the at-large council person that was duly elected gets to now hear all District 1 items, including...
But with all these changes, I wanted Mr. Standifer to feel represented, and I also wanted to come and apologize for the council creating all this work for you vis-a-vis the...
Some is about to be taken away, it looks like, on Tuesday.
But the application of the sidewalk bill, because I think we possibly have created a problem in a law for the whole county where some of it is quite rural. And this is a case where the applicant is many miles before you get to a sidewalk on Clarksville Pike. There are no plans for building a sidewalk, and the cost of the in lieu fee is very high compared to the value of the proposed improvements. And how to balance our need for sidewalks with the hardship in this case. But I know a group that can provide guidance for the fair application of the ordinance. And again, with that, I wanted to be here with the applicant and hear the discussion. And again, I'm sorry you always have these cases before you, but I think this is a real one in the Clarksville Pike sidewalk application is a very real one. But with that, I hope I didn't take any time from this.
How much street frontage is there?
I believe we were told there would be 34 feet each direction from my driveway, but the in lieu fee that they proposed was $17,800, which would be pretty significant for a
So you're tearing down this house and building a new one?
No.
Or is it that...
I'm the vacant lot.
You're the blank
next
lot.
to it,
Okay.
yes. There was a home, at some point there was a home. The last home that was being built there in 2008 burned during construction. In the neighborhood, I've just got a couple facts here.
spit off. In the neighborhood, there aren't any other homes that would be candidates for infill development. There wouldn't be anything else torn down and rebuilt. The closest sidewalk is 4.2 miles north at the Dollar General. I sent some photos. I don't know if the board received them, but I have copies if you would like to see some Google Earth aerial views.
They're in our packets with the arrows.
Yeah, the arrows point to a red horizontal line. That is the only sidewalk. This one here is a little more clear of how far it is to the next sidewalk. The 2 dots. Lower left dot indicates my property. Upper right dot indicates 4.2 miles away at the Dollar General.
So, Councilman Cooper, help us out here.
Yes.
This sidewalk bill came in front of you and passed unanimously, and without a lot of opposition, even from my people that build houses that I know. And it's what it is today. And the purpose of this was, even for these parts of the city that have no sidewalks anywhere near, they created this in lieu fee. And so why, and I know this is more legislative, and we're not the legislative body, but you are, and you voted for this. So help us out with this particular case, and you've heard some of these other cases. Sidewalks are important to our city, and also the in lieu fund is very important to our city. So why should we not make these people pay in the in lieu fund?
Well, excellent question, and I was here apologizing for creating a sort of judicial problem of finding justice in individual cases, when overall there's clearly a policy good, and I think everybody agrees with more sidewalks. I think the aspects of the law that perhaps were not thought through, that hopefully this group can address, is the relatively value of the improvements, the lot size, how it is when the in lieu fee becomes disproportionate to the value of the parcel in an area that's clearly not going to have sidewalks. And so the $17,000 could be paid in, and in other cases should be, but it's never going to be returned to this community in buying other sidewalks, so to speak. They're just probably not going to have sidewalks.
But it'll go in somebody's fund. Somebody will benefit from some nice sidewalks in Nashville. Well,
but not this area, and so in effect it's a tax on him to pay for somebody else's sidewalks. If there were sidewalks that were closer and you could say, well, we could use that money to get them closer to this parcel, I would feel more comfortable in charging him for that money. And ultimately, if you've got very large lots in a rural area and with topography challenges, it does just feel to me that $17,000 is an awful lot to charge in this case. And so
but unlike the case where someone's house burns down, I mean, you could pass this on to the person that buys the house, can't you?
Well, he's building it for himself.
Okay.
Yes, this is not an investment property. And my first note there is I totally understand this rule in Germantown, the Nation, Sylvan Park. I get it with infill development. But if you do drive down Clarksville Pike, let's say in the future they say we're going to build sidewalks, there will be so much pushback because of the entrances to 2/3 of these homes have very elaborate entrances with columns and such, that this would be a sidewalk to nowhere that is going to run into my neighbor's yards, and that's it.
Okay.
I do understand the law.
Questions for the applicants?
Well, I mean, I do think that, and I appreciate that Councilman being here, especially to see the board that hears the appeals hears the holes in the law, or the exceptions, and if there are enough exceptions, then the hope is that the law gets changed to avoid the bulk of those. And I know that that's just, we've only had it a couple months, right?
Well, that's why I wanted to be here, because I think your challenges in applying it are in real time important to us learning.
But, we've heard from other council members that they would love to come meet with us to discuss our leniency on some of these cases too. So you have council folks that like you are saying, hey, this really didn't make a whole lot of sense here, which I totally understand. And then you have others that, or it's a tax and we knew it was a tax when we passed it and we want it to be, and we're in a tough situation. But it does seem to be a good example to me of a road that's not engineered for a sidewalk that would take a major restructuring And the question is does that topography and length of sidewalk for a residential area make it worthy of a variance? And but we have seen a lot of these, and they're not easy, because frankly because of yeah, and the other piece is that if it were just a flat sidewalk, it's not going to be $178 a foot. The fee is very high for a resident versus maybe a commercial project, which you would expect it to be. The last commercial project didn't balk at all at a $54,000 in lieu fee, because that was a better situation for them. So I get it. That was really not a question, but.
Well, and I think it's very important to keep track of all these variances as we're building a case law to find a more just solution. And this is that phase that we have to go through to find what that is.
And I appreciate you pointing out the difficulty of that sidewalk. When we first went to pull the permits, I was ready to, let's just do this. I want to build the home. The clock's ticking on my loan. When I asked the builder sitting to my right here, he then told me how much it's probably going to cost to try to build something on this sidewalk, that it's not just pouring some concrete on a piece of flat land. So thanks for bringing that up.
Any other questions for the applicant, or anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
If I ever saw a case that I think warrants us issuing someone not contributing to the fee, this one is it. And I live out in the country too, where there's a lot of open land. And if there's not a school or a grocery store or some reason to need a sidewalk, and there's obviously not going to be one there, I'd be inclined to allow this variance.
Not to pay in the in lieu fund too?
Right.
Okay. Any other comments? Motion?
I would make that as a motion, that that the administrator did not err in refusing to allow the building permit, but that the circumstances have been clearly given us that would warrant us allowing a variance for neither building or paying into the in lieu fee.
Okay. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I said aye. Okay. Passed 4-1.
All right, the motion passes 4-1. Mr. Chairman, that'll bring us to our next case.
Thank you. Can I ask one question, please? I'm the Keenan Allen, the general contractor. We have applied for our building permit, and we have a stormwater hold and a public works hold. When will this be applied to the?
You need to talk to staff after you step away from the table, please, and I'll be glad to help you.
Right.
After I call the next case, which is 2017, number 406, involving the property located at 541 Wedgwood Avenue. The appellant owner of the property, Bethel Coleman, has filed an Item A appeal challenging the zoning staff's denial of the short-term rental permit based upon having previously operated without the required permit. Aerial map shown here. The intersection there along Wedgwood. Property assessor's website, photograph of the front of the house. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 406? Seeing none. Party will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation to the board. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Okay. Jeff Strickland, 3200 West End Avenue, Nashville, 37203. I will let Ms. Coleman introduce herself and her address.
My name is Bethel Coleman, and I reside at 541 Wedgwood Avenue.
Okay, please begin.
Neophyte on this. She bought a house, closed on May 31st. She started the process for the rental permit actually before she closed. And the prior owner that sold her the house said, oh, you already have a permit. You don't need one. She didn't take him for his word. She applied, started the process. On July 5th, the fire inspector was out, and he said, you're going to be approved. Got a phone call or note saying that to come down to the codes, you've been red flagged. She came down here, Mr. Osborne, on July 5th, before ever any notice, letter, stop work. She was handed a civil warrant and said, you've been sued. She went to court on the 1st of August, I believe, and she was told that there was no valid service and that they would issue an alias. That was issued back in October 13th, I believe. I worked with council to postpone and continue the hearings pending this zoning board's appeal. And so she has a hearing next Wednesday with Kate Pham in the environmental court, but she's never received a bit of notice that she was doing anything illegal. She did rent it a few times, I think 5, 6 times in advance. Once she got handed the civil warrant, she canceled all reservations except one. And that one was on the eclipse weekend for a family coming from Indiana. And she said, I'd rather pay the penalty dealing with that than leave them out in the cold, or I guess out in the dark on the eclipse. All we're asking is that it's been taken down. There's been no advertisement. She has not rented it since early July, I believe, late June. She's already paid 6 months worth of paying, and I go ahead and just allow her to apply for permit effective immediately.
Okay. Mr. Osborne, is this one of yours? Please come forward. Tell us how you all heard about it, if there were any other violations besides not having a permit, and what other information you might provide us.
So the only complaint that we got about this one was that the status was pending, meaning that they didn't have a permit.
Was this host or just some other?
This was back in July, so this is before host.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Osborne? Okay, thank you. Anything else to add?
She's calculated what she
rented it.
Once she got served, she stopped everything. She didn't pay the tax. She has calculated what she owes for $211 for the hotel occupancy tax, which she's going to be filing, and then $326.06 for the sales tax. So she's ready to get everything taken care of, pay her $50 permit application, and start the process from scratch.
Okay. Any other questions? Let's close the public hearing.
Do you have any info on the
I have a
environmental
question
court?
for our lawyer, and I just still don't understand this process. Some people get hauled in front of environmental court and others don't. Can you give us any insight on why?
Well, so there are two different issues. The BZA considers denial of a short-term rental permit. Environmental court considers operating without a permit.
But as you know, this agenda, last agenda, is full of cases.
Well, there is often crossover.
So
I mean, if they're denied for operating without a permit, they may be in environmental court, but as the gentleman just pointed out, if they're in environmental court for operating, but they have also tried to cure that by coming to the BZA, the environmental court cases are often continued to let this board act.
But how come the environmental court docket, I could be wrong, doesn't look like our docket? I mean, we got so many cases.
Oh, it does. It does.
So, Mr. Osborne, you're going to shed us some light on all this.
Also, during this time, back over the summer, we did not give notice. Our notice was the warrant. You're breaking the law, see us in court. So that is why this procedure and very few others have come this way.
Now I'm speaking to everyone watching on the Metro National Network. The difference between environmental court and the BZA is if the worst that we can do is a year, but if you're found guilty of violating this ordinance in the environmental court, it's 3 months. It's 3 years, no matter what. So, word to the wise. Okay. Discussion.
I mean, it sounds like that the person, rented it 5 times, was told to stop. That's been 6 months ago. I think no complaints. And, I do understand that, if somebody had a permit, it's not thinking it's transferable. It's not. That's just not how it works, but I get it. But I think the fact that they stopped and it's been 6 months is time enough. So I move that the zoning administrator did not err in his finding, and that the applicant's eligible to apply for a permit tomorrow.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I will second it.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Good luck. Follow the law. And good luck with the people with the robes. They're a lot tougher than we are sometimes.
And you can apply for a permit, you don't have a permit, so don't rent or do anything till you have that piece of paper.
I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next case before the board is 2017-408. That appeal is filed by Robert Crutcher, the appellant and owner of the property at 3209 West Hamilton Avenue, shown on the zoning map here. It's an item A appeal involving a short-term rental permit that was denied by staff based upon prior operation before obtaining the permit. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 408? Seeing none, the appellant will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Irene Hayudi.
Please press the button so we can hear you. Very good.
Sorry. Good afternoon. Thank you for your time. My name is Irene Hayudi, and I represent Mr. Crutcher in this matter. While ignorance of the law may not be an excuse, it is a factor that this board can consider. And Mr. Crutcher did not realize that he needed a license for short-term rentals until he got a letter asking him to cease and desist, and he complied with that letter. It took him about a week to apply for a permit, and he deleted all his reservations, and he has not had the property listed for short-term rental.
What day did he apply for his permit?
I applied in November, I believe. It's November when I got the letter. Hello, my name is Robert Crutcher. I reside at 3209 West Hamilton. I applied as soon as I got the notification in the mail.
When did you get the notification?
In November.
Okay. Because interestingly enough, I'm looking at one of your reviews in November. Oh, but this is November 2016. Oh, never mind. So you've been doing this for a while?
Yeah, I've been doing this before. It was a rule that you needed a permit, and that's
Well, no,
why.
I mean, it was on the law in 2016. So when did you start?
Actually, Mr. Chairman, that's April of 2015 is when we had the first regulation.
15.
Were you doing it before April 2015?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when did you find out we had rules related to these kind of cases and houses?
When did I find out?
Yeah.
I found out in November when I got the letter. Apparently, the letter was sent to my former address on Drake's Branch Road, but that house is in construction, and as soon as I got the letter, I ceased and desisted.
Did you cancel any future permits? I mean,
I canceled all of them. I haven't had any. There's nobody. I've been the only one in that house since November.
But did you have future bookings of people coming?
No.
Okay.
None.
But you took it down?
No, I didn't take it down. I left it up for over 30 days.
Why'd you leave it up?
Because I knew it was against the law to advertise for short term, so I advertised.
Oh, you've increased it anything
to 30 days.
30. Okay, gotcha. That's what I meant. Okay, good. Questions for the applicant? Let's hear from Mr. Osborne. Is this Mr. Osborne? Is this one of your cases? So tell us how you found out about it, any other non-permitted complaints, and any other information relevant to our rulings.
So this was another one brought to our attention by host compliance. Did speak to Mr. Crutcher shortly after he got the notice. It does look like both of the listings are still active and appear to be bookable for less than 30 days.
Less than 30 days?
That's not true. On Airbnb, it's 30 days or more. And I've showed where I have interaction with different guests and told them that I can't rent it for less than 30 days. And this has been out of my communication with them. I haven't rented it.
You think there's a way that
I have? You know what I'm saying? You could I could pull it up my listing, and you can maybe see my interactions with the guests. Like I said, I haven't had anybody in the house since November.
You might have to have Mr. Osborne tell you how to make it longer.
I don't know how to make it longer. I don't actively use Airbnb.
But you could see, you could book it.
But I can go on and click dates, and if it's less than, or if it's more than 30 days, if you click the first, it won't let you select anything less than the first of the next month.
Gotcha.
So
Say it again. I don't understand.
I can select the 18th of January and try and check out on the 20th of January. That's less than 30 days.
You try to check it. I didn't get a notification about that. Like I said, on the.
No, he's just looking at it now. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, in the requirements, I put 30 days in there, Airbnb.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Osborne, for the applicant? Okay. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any complaints with neighbors. I talked with my 5 adjacent neighbors, and, they signed the paper that I needed, in order to get a permit. And like I said, I don't have any complaints. I run a tight ship. I don't want to allow any parties. There's not been any loud music or any marijuana smoke.
Mr. Osborne, do you see anything going forward a couple months that shows any dates blocked off?
Not on Airbnb.
Not on any website.
Let me see on Flipkey. Not at this time.
Okay.
And
Any other thing to add?
I just like
Counselor?
to add, this is a large part of this gentleman's income, and he took a real severe financial hit in terms of actually complying with the cease and desist letter and not having people come in and rent from him.
Counselor, that's not part of our deliberation on this. We're trying to figure out how to get people to comply with the law. Okay. Anything else? We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
Excuse me, I didn't hear any discussion about payment of tax.
Well, let's ask that. Counselor, has he paid his taxes here? Have you paid your tax?
Federal income tax.
Not income tax, your short-term rental tax that you have to pay, basically hotel motel taxes for operating short-term rental. Have you ever paid taxes based on the money you receive from this?
No, I was thinking that for the future, I heard that Airbnb is supposed to do that.
They
But
might.
like I said, I've been as soon as I got the letter in November. As soon as I got the letter,
Okay.
I stopped, and
Okay.
and so everything that I've known to do, I've done it.
We're going to close the public hearing again. Ms. Sanford, you heard the answer. Discussion. Motion.
Well, I mean, I'm a little, there's 8 reviews on the Airbnb site that we were presented, but it sounds like it's rented much more actively, or was rented much more actively. If it's a substantial part of his income, I think it would have to be more than 8 rentals over the last 2 years. But it's not a story we haven't heard. And I think the question is whether, how important is the active listing versus, I do think that the applicant thought that he had it listed for more than 30 days. I do think that when Robert looked in advance on both of the 2 websites, there weren't visible rentals like we saw on the other applicant, where you could see it's marked off where she said, oh, I'm staying, or somebody's staying there. It wasn't listed that way.
So what do you think? You have a motion?
I mean,
it's our last meeting probably for doing this anyway. So it's our last meeting for probably doing this. So.
To me, it seems like 4 months from the date of the filing. So I could move that.
Is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case to present to the board is case number 2017-409. Jordan Berlin is the appellant and owner of the property at 1006 Broadmoor Drive. It's an item A case involving a short-term rental permit, the denial based upon prior operation before obtaining the legally required permit. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 409? Seeing none, the appellant will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation. Please introduce yourself by name and address.
Thank you. My name is Brad Berlin. I'm the father. I live at 1498 Kellywood Drive in Brentwood, Tennessee. I'm here representing my daughter, Jordan, who lives at 1006 Broadmoor here in Nashville. She was denied the permit, and basically, I'm probably the reason why she was denied. She called me one day and said, I would like to maybe do some Airbnb. She lives by herself. She's a 28-year-old single female. If anybody has any older sons that are looking to date, I have a daughter. But
that's the first for the BZA.
Anyways, the house was built in 57. I was born in 58, so I've been doing a lot of work over there. But the deal was, I said, okay, I'll look into it for you. I looked into the Airbnb deal. I knew nothing about it. I had a friend that does it in Chattanooga. I called him, said, yeah, piece of cake, da-da-da-da-da. So I called my daughter and I said, let's do it on some certain conditions, i.e., when the Airbnb's over, I show up at the house with you, you go in with a friend, you know, security stuff that a father wants a daughter to have. So she started the Airbnb process. Everything's good. I never saw anything about a permit because I really didn't look. All I basically looked on was Airbnb and how do you do it. I looked at nothing about Metro, nothing in Davidson County about any of that. It was my fault. I screwed that up. So I let her down on that. So anyway, she's rented it a couple of times in October, a couple of times in November. She got her letter. And when she got her letter, she called me and says, hey, I think we need a permit. Right then and there, I got on the internet and I said, yep, we screwed up. We needed a permit. And I said, let's shut it down. Don't advertise. Take everything away. And let's start.
Did you cancel any listings?
I think she said she canceled 2.
Okay.
2 listings. She had one on New Year's Eve and another one.
That's a big listing.
Yeah, no. Sometime in December, she had another one. Mm-hmm. So she canceled that, and then she started this process, 120 certified letters. She put the sign out. She's got the $1 million liability. She's got the smoke detectors. So she's working one step at a time. She actually works right over here across at Civic Engineering. Unfortunately, she had to leave a few minutes ago, so I'm here. Okay. So I'm pretty much, when she rents, or when she did rent, she would come to my house and stay with us, which is good for my wife and I. We get our daughter for a couple days out of the month, which I like that. And then I go back over to her house with her and go in after the Airbnb, making sure everything's fine. So I'm really protective about that. But we screwed it up, and we apologize. She's a college-educated young lady. She bought her a house in Inglewood.
Nice.
I'm very proud of her, but I let her down. So I'm basically here to try to appeal it to see if we can get her this permit so she can do some short-term rentals.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant? Author? Anything else to add? Let's hear from Mr. Osborne. How'd you hear about this? Any other non-permitted complaints and other information we might need?
So we found out about this one through host compliance, and I don't think we've received any other complaints on it.
Okay, thank you.
And no evidence that it was rented or active, and is it active now?
It is not active now. It was taken down sometime around December 9th.
Okay. We're going to close the public hearing. Discussion.
Taking it down matters. Seems to be a big stickler.
And it didn't seem there were 8 reviews, I guess, on this in a few months.
2 or 3 months.
Mr. Taylor, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I think taking it down matters. I think that was the difference between this case and the last case, maybe the only difference. And so, it's kind of split the difference. It's kind of 2 or 3, depending upon what you think. And I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but
you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion that the zoning administrator did not err in denying the permit based on the fact that it was not rented very much and that there was immediate cease and desist, and the fact that it was taken off of Airbnb, not just for a short period of time and not for 30 days, that the applicant is eligible to apply for a permit 2 months after the date that they filed, which I think is December 9th.
Okay. Motion's been made.
Which was December 1st.
Okay. Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, Board.
Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Okay. John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case is 2017-410 involving the property at 900 Main Street in East Nashville, Council District Number 6. This is a request for a variance from the sidewalk requirements in the MUGA zoning district. Project is construction of 2 stories above the existing brewery location for a total of 3 stories, which of course triggered the sidewalk requirements. The site plan submitted here shows a proposed layout of the property. And if you'll forgive the quality of photography, we're just happy to have the photograph showing here the intersection along Main and the view from across the street looking into the interior of that block. Dan Heller is the appellant on behalf of McGavick Pike Partners, the owner of the property at this location. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 410? Seeing none, gentlemen, please introduce yourself by name and address.
And to remind board members, this is one of the cases that Councilman Withers spoke in favor of at the beginning of the meeting. So, let's go.
I'm Dan Heller. I live at 1411 McGavick Pike in Inglewood. And I filed on behalf of McGavick Pike Partners, which includes myself and my business partner, March Edgerton. So we ran into the issue of sidewalks, and I know a lot of people in this city are as well. But I'm going to hand it over to March, who is a lot more versed on that issue. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have as well.
I'm March Edgerton. I live at 3940 Moss Rose Drive. We're here because we were trying to pull a permit to put 2 more floors on top of the building you see there. We just completed the building that you see in the background. So the sidewalk bill requires a dedication of right-of-way, which is not possible here. So Public Works, instead of signing off on our permit, spent a couple of months sort of batting it back and forth, then just said go to the BZA. That's why we're here. My understanding is that planning made a recommendation that we pay into the
in lieu fee.
Yeah. Yep. Which I've had a few minutes carved out in the back here to read the sidewalk bill. And it looks like that's not actually an option anyway, but that's also an option that would apply where there is no sidewalk. That is in lieu of construction. So there is no way to create more right-of-way other than removing the building and starting over. So,
Did you have any objection to Councilman Withers' suggestion that, well, I know you don't have an objection to us approving the variance because that's what you're asking for, but the conditions that he had suggested, and that was that you be responsible for repairing any damage done to the sidewalks during your construction, at least to the, to the standard that that Metro would require, and that you also work with Public Works and the urban forester to improve the sidewalks through tree wells and other means that you all mutually agree upon?
Yeah, we suggested that he say
Right,
that.
and I think that was your idea, but
Yeah.
but just for the
Right.
record, you have no objection to a motion of that nature.
Right, so the tree wells, so I went to again, we've been dealing with Public Works on the other building, and so they're not all that shy about asking you for things in these kind of situations. So we're confident that they'll ask us to repair the sidewalk if they think that we need to. The tree well idea was my idea because when you go up this street, the next half block up where we just finished construction has quite a bit of trees actually on both sides of the sidewalk that we put in up there. So we're about to spend quite a bit more here, and we would like this thing to look good at the end. So the tree wells would kind of help continue that tree line. That's not really an option in front. There's just not enough room to make anything fit. But on the side, I think that they're going to be smaller than the ones up the street, but we think that it would add a lot to the streetscape. So yeah, we're fine with that.
Okay. Anything else to add?
No, I don't think so.
This is the old Fluffo mattress factory.
Correct.
Okay. We will close the public hearing. And before we do, you talked about you're fine with the tree wells and the patching and all that. Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Close the public hearing.
Yeah,
Mr. Taylor.
this was originally on the consent agenda. It was taken off because applicants had a variation that they wanted to propose, and that was
therefore they got to hear 3.5 hours.
That's good.
Of short-term rental.
Airbnb
How much is your time worth?
Riveting.
Popcorn in the back
You
there.
paid a
It was
cost
pretty
for that.
entertaining.
But I'll make a motion that we grant the sidewalk variance with the conditions that any sidewalk, existing sidewalk that is damaged or removed be replaced, and that the applicant work with Public Works to establish tree wells and/or any other improvements in the existing sidewalk space that they mutually agree upon.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. Being here. John Michael.
13. Mr. Chairman, the next case to be heard is 2017-413. Sharif Tadros is the appellant for Ambrosia Catering, Tennessee Corp., the owner of the property located at 2211B Gladstone Avenue. The request is for a variance from sidewalk requirements in IWD, Industrial Warehouse District Zoning District, for construction of a new kitchen for catering to restaurants. The site plan submitted here gives a demonstration of the proposed layout of the property from our recent photography here of the residence, getting back to the main view of the overhead there. Is there anyone here in opposition to case number 413? All right, please introduce yourself by name and address and make the desired presentation regarding the request for a variance from the sidewalk requirements.
Yeah, my name is Sharif Tadros. I live at 840 Cranberry Lane.
And how do you spell your name?
Sharif, S-H-E-R-I-F. Last name Tadros, T-A-D-R-O-S.
Okay, thank you.
It's 840 Cranberry Lane, Nashville, Tennessee, 37135. Yeah, I'm coming here for the sidewalk for my business, and I don't find anybody around me have a sidewalk.
Okay, so you're having, it looks like some sort of commercial kitchen.
Yeah, just a kitchen, it's not a restaurant.
Right, but you cater and things
Yes,
like that.
sir.
So have you talked to so we have recommendations from planning. You've probably seen their recommendations that they think that you should basically either build the sidewalk or pay into the fund, I guess. Yes. So why shouldn't you pay into the sidewalk fund?
Oh, you mean with no?
In lieu fund, instead of building the sidewalk, you just pay into the fund.
Oh no, we built the kitchen in the back, and we have the alley. Okay, and everybody park in the back, and the house we keep as the people who live there, like me.
Do you understand? So if we allow you not to build the sidewalk, you potentially have to pay into this fund based on how much a sidewalk would cost to help sidewalks in other parts of the city.
Yeah.
Or do you object to paying into the fund?
They mean like I pay for the do you mean like I pay for somebody make it or what?
No, instead of you building a sidewalk yourself, you have to pay money to the city, and it goes into this fund where they build sidewalks in other places.
That's I think it is a question for his son. I think maybe yeah.
So we have an email from the district councilman Colby Sledge, and I'll read it in its entirety. I agree with the planning department's request for disapproval from the variance of the sidewalk requirements. At this very least, it should be appropriate for the applicant to pay in the in lieu fund. So the council person is saying you should have to pay into this fund.
Have you talked with your council person?
No. No, yeah.
So, do you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
Well, the planning department recommendation, did you receive a copy of that?
The planning?
Yeah, from the planning
I
department.
think is the copy here somewhere.
I mean, that's something you can ask for before a meeting. They talk about an alternative sidewalk design. Have you spoken with them or Public Works or Stormwater about that? Because that could be an option for you as well.
No, I don't have it. This one, sorry.
Gave it to you.
Oh, this one? Okay.
Is that something you could talk to them about if we give you some more time?
Okay, do you want to call
You can go talk to them about how to do an alternative design so you wouldn't have to come back here?
Okay. Do you want to call this people, or we want to contact with the people?
We think you should talk to those people to come up with, if you agree to their alternative designs. If not, the city is growing. Sidewalks are important. There's a law that you heard earlier that passed unanimously from the city council and got a lot of media attention, and nobody objected out of 40 people. And so we are here to uphold the law except on the most unusual circumstances. So if we did give you a variance, you would have to pay into the fund. What she is saying is planning has talked about an alternative design where you could build a sidewalk in front of your property. So I guess what it's coming down to, you could try to build a sidewalk, which is what she's suggesting, or you could pay into the in lieu fund so you don't have to build a sidewalk.
How much is it? I don't know.
John Michael, the in lieu fund is how much again?
$178.
$178 per linear foot on the frontage here for a 50-foot frontage. That would be $8,900, give or take.
Okay, another $8,000 or so.
Do you want to pay this?
That's what you would have to pay.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
How I pay? This after we build or what?
That's but if you were to get your permit, you'd have to pay into that fund.
Oh, okay. 8,000?
Roughly.
Oh.
Yeah, you can not have a sidewalk and pay
$8,000.
Pay that.
Or you could build some sort of
build a sidewalk to a different, you may have a topographical hardship or something, but they can get you a different design is what they're saying. Or you can go talk to your council member and try to convince him, since you haven't spoken to him, that you should get a variance, and there may be a compelling reason that you haven't given to us today. So, I mean,
and the Planning Commission talks about this is near a light rail line that has been suggested by In Motion, so they want people to walk around. So planning's saying, we want you to build a sidewalk, basically.
And unlike the previous case, which was out in the country on a road that wasn't engineered for a sidewalk, you're on a road that looks, that doesn't have a ditch and that kind of thing.
So your options are basically to pay into the fund or to build some sort of sidewalk right now.
Okay.
Or wait 2 weeks and go talk to some folks and see if you have either another. I mean, you can defer it and go talk to your council member and decide what you.
But the alternate design, I mean, it just sounds like you're still going to have to build some sort of sidewalk. So the question is, do you want to pay in the fund and just not build the sidewalk, or do you want to build some sort of sidewalk and work with planning to see how that works. Those are your options.
Yeah, but there's no way we're not going to sidewalk. Do you need a sidewalk, right?
Yes, but if you don't want to build a sidewalk, you have to pay roughly $8,000 to the fund.
I know, but if you make it, we're not pay anything.
If you what?
That's right. If you make the sidewalk,
Yeah,
if you build a
yeah.
sidewalk.
If you build a sidewalk, you don't have to pay.
Okay.
But the law says you have to build a sidewalk. That's the new law that passed.
Okay, and I'm so sorry. How can I do that one? We do this one with this building?
I guess what, our board, defer this to a couple weeks and go talk to planning?
I think so. I think you should talk to the departments that are listed on that piece of paper that you received and see if you can work out an alternative design that would work for your site. They're suggesting that as an idea, so you could do that, or like our chair was saying, you could pay into the fund.
And so we can defer this decision for one meeting or 2 meetings, depending upon how long you think you need to take to talk. And that way, if you can't work something out, you can come back and have us decide something, which maybe still have you pay into the fund, or it may be nothing. You don't have to pay, we would hear it as a case, but that way you wouldn't have to put up signs again and that kind of thing. It would just be deferred. So we can defer it 1 meeting or 2 meetings just so it'll still be on our docket. But in the meantime, you can go work with planning and maybe work something out so you don't even have to come back here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good.
So is 1 meeting okay?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
February 1st.
February 1st. So John Michael, we're deferring this to February 1st.
Between
That means
now
between
and
now,
February
it means
1st,
if you don't work it out between now and February 1st, you come back here and talk to us again.
But if I pay for the front 8,000, or I make it.
Yeah, if you
we're
pay,
not
you don't have to
coming
come
here.
back. You just
Yes.
pay and then
If
you're.
I make it, we're not going to come back too, right?
Yeah, if you make it, you don't
Either
have to come
one
back.
was not come back.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank
So
you.
talk to John Michael in a minute. Okay.
I'll move that we defer this case until February 1st.
Okay, motion been made to defer to February 1st, has been seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed? It's deferred to February 1st, 1 meeting. Michael?
Next case for the board is 2017-418 involving the property at 4734 Lebanon Pike, just before you fall out of Davidson County. The request is for a variance from sidewalk requirements in the R10 zoning district for renovation of a fast food restaurant. The property shown here from the aerial map. Site plan submitted demonstrates a proposed layout. This is an interior renovation of the property, enough of it, though, that it did trigger the sidewalk requirement under the revised zoning laws brought forth by Council Bill 2016-493. Face of the property from the assessor's website shown there. Now, is there anyone here in opposition to case number 418? Seeing none, the appellant will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation. Introduce yourself by name and address and let her rip.
Ken Crowder, Martin Engineering and Surveying, 5226 Main Street, Spring Hill, Tennessee. I'm here representing McDonald's Corporation on this. The requirement was kicked in for sidewalks on this project because the remodel for the McDonald's building is greater than 25% of the valuation of the property. The requirement is, from what I have gathered from Public Works, is this is an area that's designated as a TE-01. And it's a requirement that requires a 6-foot brandishing strip, which is a grass strip, behind the face of curb, and then an 8-foot sidewalk past that. The property right now, if you look at the southeast corner of the parking lot, which is down on your lower right, from the face of curb on Lebanon Pike to the back of curb at the McDonald's site, there's exactly 14.6 feet. And to put in a 6-foot brandishing strip and an 8-foot sidewalk, that gives me 0.6 feet. Also at that point, there's approximately a 4.64 foot of elevation difference. So this project doesn't just become a sidewalk project, it becomes a retaining wall project as well if McDonald's has to do this.
Okay, that being said, are you willing to pay in the in lieu fund?
Well, and McDonald's, I talked to McDonald's this morning, and they're willing to pay into the in lieu fund, but they're not willing to dedicate the right-of-way at this time. But in the past, we've done these sidewalks and we've done pedestrian easements for the city. instead of dedicating right-of-way.
Okay.
Now, it may have changed that they require that.
That's the new sidewalk, well, it's,
But McDonald's is willing to
pay
pay
the in-lieu
to
fund.
the fee, but not
Okay.
dedicate the right-of-way at this time. And then when the sidewalk needs to be built, then Metro can talk with McDonald's and is what they're talking about.
okay, very good. What is that?
That must be my phone, I'm sorry. I had it on mute. I don't know why
Okay.
that's going on.
We're just glad it's you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. So, he will pay into the in lieu fund, but they're not willing to dedicate the right-of-way. And if you remember, we had a case sort of nearby with Waffle House, same thing. So, anyone have any motions? Or
I'll move that we approve the sidewalk variance, provided that provided that the property owner, I guess McDonald's Corporation, pays the in lieu fee.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
I'm just not in favor of not dedicating the right-of-way. I mean, that's just something that's commonly done. Although this is a renovation, isn't it?
I mean,
It's
to me,
a
on an
renovation.
interior renovation, to me, it just feels like taking property without compensation, and
That's our attorney and I have spoken about that, about developing, and do you want to?
I believe that our ordinance that requires the right-of-way is legal. And I think that our dedication of the right-of-way, there is case law to support the position that requiring the right-of-way for the public welfare for things such as sidewalk would not be considered a taking. That being said, until it's challenged in court, I mean, a court would be the one to ultimately make that decision. But I believe that the law as it currently exists, our position is that it is a valid requirement to dedicate the right-of-way.
I guess with that said, I mean, it's not a new building. I see that a lot in new construction where you have to dedicate the right-of-way. And
Right.
oftentimes our buildings are altered greatly because you have to dedicate. But if this is a renovation, I could probably get on board with
well, that's the main piece of it. It's an interior renovation. If it
Right.
were, I mean, if it were brand new construction, where if it was one where they tore it down and started and built the new McDonald's or whatever the new thing is, then I think I would agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I move that we approve the variance.
And I second it.
With them paying into the
In lieu fund. Okay. Motion been made, seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Go pay into the right-of-way, and good luck with your new modern design.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
John Michael.
Mr. Chairman, the next case before the board is case 2017-420. James Waldner is the appellant and owner of the property at 5511 California. The request is an item D case for a change in nonconforming structure. I think it may say use on your agenda, but it's a nonconforming structure, the R6 zoning district, to construct an addition to an existing noncomplying structure, namely the garage or accessory structure to the rear of the property. This is referred to the board under section 17.40.660 of the Metro Zoning Code, which handles legally nonconforming structures. The proposed layout as shown in the survey demonstrates in blue the areas for the proposed additions. You'll note, and the appellant can speak to this in a more informed manner than we can, but you'll note that the existing structure there in the lower left-hand corner of that lot is the existing garage. This is a proposal to expand that slightly to the north as shown above and slightly to the east as shown to the rear, seemingly maintaining the same setbacks as it appears that exist right now with that structure, just expanding them along the property lines of the identified alley and then northbound on 56th Avenue North. From my recent site visit, the face of the property in the lower right-hand corner, the view roughly across the street in the upper left, and then the views up and down California here on the photographs here from the face of the property. With presumably no opposition present, the appellant will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation. Please introduce yourself by name and address and take it up with the board.
Before we start, John Michael, give us the quick item D kind of.
So the idea is legally nonconforming use or legally nonconforming structure. Often you see it with use. Hey, I have a business that just happens to be located in a residentially zoned district. I want to make a change or alteration of the use. Then you've got this totally different analysis. Here, it's the same use. It's a residence on a residential property. But the structure itself includes a legally nonconforming element of the structure, namely that accessory structure to the rear of the house appears to be outside of the required setbacks, namely it's at a 0 setback. So for a change in legally nonconforming structure, that's what brings us into the aforementioned section of the code 1740-660. The criteria for enlargements are specifically identified in subsection C. Fortunately, we are capably represented by Metro Legal, and Ms. Lamb is well versed on the ins and outs of some of those procedures, but the board nevertheless will have a decision to make as to whether or not this meets the criteria of that subsection C for an enlargement with a legally nonconforming structure on the property.
Okay.
It can't be a residence, right? It's just a garage.
That is not a question before the board, fortunately, because I don't know off the top of my head without stopping to look at that. Sorry, Mr. Taylor.
Our lawyer might know.
Well, I mean, he can tell me.
It's R6.
I mean, I'm a little unclear what the question is. The code references a nonconforming structure. So I think, an enlargement of that structure. So I think if the garage is what's before you today, then we're considering the garage.
Okay.
And you know what, I don't want to seem like we've evaded that question. It's R6 zoning, which allows, R6 zoning allows 2 residences on the same lot. So not really at issue at this time, but to answer your question.
Please get us started, your name, your address, and what you're here for.
My name is James Wallner. I live at the address in question, 5511 California Avenue here in Nashville. And what we're trying to do is to construct a home on the rear of the lot. In so doing, our hope is to preserve the garage that currently exists and not demolish it. So basically just to build the home, to incorporate.
And the garage is built basically close to the lot line or on the lot line?
That's correct.
But you're adding an addition to the garage too?
That's correct.
And so that's kind of what we're getting at. So John Michael, that's obviously in the setback. So how that's what we're kind of talking about, non-conforming structure, change of a non-conforming structure?
You've got it. The structure itself is already legally non-conforming in that it does have a 0-foot setback to the south there on the alley and to the west there on 56th. The proposal here involves an enlargement of that legally non-conforming
so why
structure.
isn't this kind of a variance setback for?
Beg your pardon?
Why isn't this more of a setback issue than this item D?
Because by whatever means that it is legally non-conforming, that's either that it already obtained a variance or predated the zoning code and therefore was allowed to be built as it was built when it was built.
Even if you add on?
Beg your pardon?
Even if you were adding on and it's still in this setback, right?
Think of it this way. The structure as it exists has already been baptized. We got new children in the family that need to be built on, and they need to get baptized too. So y'all can either baptize it or not. Forgive my Church of Christ upbringing, Mr. Chairman.
So, but you want to build, do you want this to be a home?
Yes.
And right now it's a garage, so isn't that a change in non-conforming use?
It's R6 zoning, which allows 2 residences on one lot, so it would actually be conforming to the zoning code to have 2 residences on that one lot. And that's often the case in this particular neighborhood. There's tons of R zoning there.
I mean, I guess I'd like to know what the hardship is, and the fact that it's a home, you know, and I mean, I have less concern. One, I do have a little bit of concern that it's an outbuilding that has, you know, that's that big, it's a garage, but I have a whole lot less concern about it being a garage than a home with a 0 lot line on the alley and on 56th. I mean, it just...
If I could just interrupt one and make one quick point. You were talking about being concerned about the hardship. This isn't a variance request, so I don't think you're not required to find a hardship. That's not the burden here. The issue is he wants to enlarge a legally non-conforming structure, and the burden there is that there can be no increase in the degree of nonconformity. So I think the board should determine if it's currently at a 0-foot setback. So if you, as it exists, I think it's up to the board to determine if making more building at the 0% or at the 0-foot setback is expanding that use, then you would, presumably deny the request. If you determine that it is already at 0 feet and therefore just adding more square footages and enlarging it, then.
So if I've got 53 feet right now that's non-conforming because it sits on the lot line, and I think having another 50 feet doesn't impact that degree at all, then this is okay. If I do think that all of a sudden having 100-plus feet of non-conforming setback is, if I feel like that's 100 feet is more than 50 feet in terms of the degree of conformity, then I would have to vote no.
Correct. So the issue is not the hardship, but the issue is whether or not this enlargement to the structure would be considered, if this board would consider it an increase in the degree of nonconformity.
And the use is relevant or not?
The use is not relevant to this because the nonconforming use is a separate section of the code.
Regardless of safety concerns of a zero lot line residence?
Separate analysis. Separate analysis.
Yeah.
Separate analysis. Okay. And is there a process for that analysis, or is it?
It begins with the base zoning code. R6 zoning allows 2 properties, kind of period. Now, to the questions of International Residential Code, any construction would have to meet those guidelines in order to be permitted, improved by inspectors, et cetera. But for our purposes today, just the item D case.
Okay, you had something to add?
Yeah, just as a point of context, when we had explored the addition without applying to you folks for the variance or whatever it is that it's called, we could build, but it would have to be inside the setback. And so the neighbors, the unsightliness of the lines of the garage with the additions not really lining up was kind of a point of contention, whereas if we applied for the variance and it was approved, we could kind of keep it to where everything looks
a little bit cleaner. So no opposition, any of your neighbors or anybody?
No, the Nations Neighborhood Association has a planning and zoning kind of commission within the neighborhood association, and they, I spoke with them about this, and they approved it. So.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you. We're going to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
So I think the important thing, as we just went over, is there was no opposition, and the neighborhood association seems to think it's okay. So, non-conforming use.
Well, I'm sure that there, a lot of folks that are tearing down houses there and building what they're calling tall and skinny are probably very appreciative of at least an alternative. So I do appreciate that. I think all the questions I have been deemed irrelevant by the lawyer and our code staff. And so I don't have any relevant thoughts at this point.
Okay, so I'll take a stab at this. I will recommend that we approve case 420 to change, but because the change in non-conforming use does not make it greater than the previous non-conforming use, and with this new structure. And
So let me ask you, he can build whatever size he wants to?
it's as what's submitted. He has submitted, John Michael, what's the plan?
Right. That which has been submitted meets the zoning code. He would still have to meet everything from floor area ratio requirements, height requirements, but the only question for the board is whether or not to allow an expansion with this current 0-foot setback on those 2 property lines.
So my motion is it doesn't increase the non-conforming use of the property and therefore should be approved. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion with a long pause. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes. Good luck. And then the
And Mr. Chairman, I'll take a second to applaud our youngest audience member who just made it through no fewer than 4 hours of a BZA meeting. With one case remaining, we'll hear.
She took a bow.
Very well done. With case number 2017-421, we will hear our last case of the day. Alan Collins is the appellant and owner of the property at 823 Meridian Street. This request is for a variance for parking requirements in the commercial limited zoning district shown here on the zoning map near where Meridian intersects with Wilburn, just down from its intersection with Arrington. The property shown here is intended for restaurant use. Property is well under construction at this point, but still looking to work out their parking issues. The site plan submitted gives a proposed layout of the property vis-a-vis its original concept for parking, and now the appellant will have the opportunity to make the updated request. From my recent site visit, structure shown here at the intersection of Wilburn and Meridian. The upper left-hand corner shows you the view down Wilbur. I guess that's just slightly to the north of the property, and the view directly across the street from the face of the property. And this slide shows the two views up and down Meridian at the subject address. With neither opposition nor anyone else in the room, the appellant will have 5 minutes to make the desired presentation.
Can you tell me what the exact request is? Because in the original packet, I think it was a sidewalk variance, and I think that in the final packet, they're asking for a pure parking variance. So are we asking for like no parking? Are we asking for just that sidewalk piece?
I think I'm going to allow the appellant to explain what it is he's asking for today, because to be perfectly frank, Mr. Vice Chairman, I've had a number of conversations on this project, don't remember where they landed.
Okay, thank you. My name's Alan Collins. I'm an architect with Oxford Architecture here in Nashville, 1205 Paris Avenue. We're the architect of records for the tenant that will be going in the described property here. I'm not the owner, a correction if you would, as it's stated in the description here. We are close to occupying the renovation. This was a renovation of an existing change of use building. We have met the parking requirements in the plan that's handed out that was part of the initial package, which was the initial request as well. We haven't changed the request to the variance. We met the parking requirements of off-site parking. As you noted in the presentation, this is a confined site. There's no area left on the site for on-site parking. So the on-site criteria was explored, and we were able to comply with the requirements for the parking.
So what was the requirement?
I'm sorry?
How many the requirement was for?
The requirements were as a result of meeting the square foot requirements that zoning allows. We were also able to meet the exceptions to reduce the amount of initial parking. The 7 spaces that are shown on your plan off of the alley, which is east of Meridian, are the 7 spaces that meet the criteria for parking. So we're not requesting a variance of parking because we have met that requirement. What we are requesting in the variance is that, as you are aware, there's the ordinance in 1720.080, specifically that part of that ordinance, when it's dealing with parking areas, that off-site parking areas, which is what we are, be connected to the principal use by a continuous sidewalk system. To meet that criteria, a sidewalk was proposed or is indicated to lead from this parking area off the alley to the sidewalk along Meridian. My request for your consideration to allow us not to construct that or require that sidewalk, I listed in the letter to the board requiring or stating what I feel are items that could be considered. One of them, all the other requirements of this particular section, ordinance section, has been met. Proposed location of the public sidewalk poses potential increased liability and security concerns to the landowner. The property owner owns these 3 parcels. The parcel or the renovation is occurring and the adjacent 2 parcels. There was an agreement established for the parking area to be located there, but once the sidewalk was made part of this, the landowner voiced valid concern about increased traffic, if you will, pedestrian traffic across this private piece of property to connect to the sidewalk at Meridian.
Is the sidewalk visible on this?
The sidewalk is...
or not the sidewalk, can you see where people are going to park here? Where's your 7 parking spots?
Are you referencing this? The property, if the arrow can move the arrow up, it's at the corner. This corner here, this is where the property is. If you'll, 7 spaces are allocated there, which have already been constructed. So
in the grass or this?
It's paved. We paved with pavers.
So where would the sidewalk have to go?
The sidewalk would extend from the edge of the walkway along Meridian, approximately 115 back toward the alleyway to the front edge of the new parking area, that direction there.
So how do you expect the people to walk from this off-site parking?
Well, the third item here that I made reference to is that this parking section is going to be utilized by staff and employees off of the alley. This is a tandem parking layout, which was accepted and approved by zoning, and the principal use will be by staff and employees. They're going to take the shortest route to their entrance, which is off of the rear part of the building along Wilburn. They're going to walk up the alley around the corner and go in their staff door on the back side of the property.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Well, I guess I'm not entirely sure what the hardship is for not doing it other than the desire of the, I mean, I guess I understand that it's a little, I know some places are required to have no parking, but it looks like it's going to be a big restaurant that only has 7 parking spots, which is going to cause some issues for the neighborhood, but you're not asking for a parking variance, so I do get that.
Well, we have...
Well, part of the reason is because they require off-site parking, that'll count, I guess.
Basically, they're allowed to use the off-site parking, but one of the conditions of that is to have a continuous sidewalk. So it's a variance from the condition rather than a change in the parking count.
So if you get to use off-site parking, you have to have kind of nice sidewalks going, and so he's asking not to have the sidewalk.
Right, no, I get it. I just...
Parking's important, sidewalks are important. You should be able to build sidewalks in this area.
It's just odd that it's going through a property. That's the odd thing about it.
Well,
and that's the main concern and one of the main issues that we feel that is valid here. In addition to future development of that piece of parcel, the sidewalk that would be constructed would inherently be probably removed and rethought as far as its location. Currently, this property is fenced, and up until the time that we were constructing the parking area, it was fenced off the alley as well, except for the drive area. So constructing the parking area, we've removed some of the fencing with the thought being that if we are not required to install the sidewalk, that property would be re-fenced to be more secured and keep the landowner at a level
so
of
if you redevelop
warm and
that,
fuzzies.
How long, I guess, is the lease of the restaurant tied with the lease of the parking spaces? I mean,
it is. If the lease, the restaurant breaks, then the parking space would also break the lease.
But the deal is that you cut with the city. I could open up a restaurant with no parking around it as long as we had this lot over here with 7 spaces. And the law says you have to have a continuous sidewalk.
Yes, I understand what the ordinance indicates.
And what we've asked is, what's the reason for not having it outside of just ripping? It might get ripped up in the future, which wouldn't happen because you need that to operate a restaurant.
Well, in addition to that, I mentioned and stated that I don't think, and the tenant and the landlord doesn't believe that it's going to be utilized. It's not going to be utilized. It's not going to be functional.
So how many people fit in this restaurant? How many seats?
The parking ratio was, we have just right under 100 seats.
And
The
so you're-
parking
you're
ratio is
providing
based on its
7
dining in the kitchen area.
But you're providing 7 parking spaces for 100.
Well, that's not what's in question here. The parking spaces
know.
has been approved by zoning.
But we haven't approved your getting out of the, putting a sidewalk there, and we're asking you why.
No, you have not.
And why
You-
can't
you have
why
that
can't
option.
you do that?
I'm sorry?
Why can't you put a sidewalk between this off-site lot, which you say employees will use, actually not patrons, to have a path for your employees? Sidewalks are important.
Sidewalks are important.
So why can't you put a sidewalk here?
I'm not saying we cannot put a sidewalk. I'm asking for understanding to not install it at this point for this project. Be required to do that.
Can't you do something like this? Connect the parking to this concrete pad over there? Isn't that a concrete pad? That's part of
It's a concrete pad behind the adjacent building. There's no direct access from that concrete pad to the corner building. They are separated totally, which means they would go, if the sidewalk went to there,
it's got to
have
I think
to
it's,
go
I
the
think it's
alley and up and
mislabeled.
around.
I think the red house that we're seeing is not their building, it's the gray roof, right?
That's
This is
correct.
gray
It's the one right there. That's
Just
the
thought you owned all that property.
Okay, anything else?
same owner owns the property.
Anything
correct.
else for the applicant before we close the public hearing? Okay, we're closing public hearing. Discussion.
I mean, that we have a letter in opposition that talks about the congestion, trying to avoid some of the congestion, but I think that really probably is a concern dealing more with the required number of parking spaces.
But this is
which-
what I'm concerned with. They basically, to even operate this restaurant, they had to have 7 parking spaces, which I'm not sure why it only requires 7, but that's what it is. But part of that 7 is it's got to be either contiguous or connected, and they want to provide the off-site parking but not the sidewalk. So I just don't think that that's appropriate for this area, particularly when these are patrons or employees, and you're asking them to walk, they should have a sidewalk. That's how I feel.
I mean, I could go either way on it, but I think there will be enough employees to park there, and I think it'll get them off the street. But I think you're right. I mean,
That's the reason we have these laws. I mean, that's the sidewalk law, and he gives us this letter, but there's really no good reason, in my opinion, of why they shouldn't have to build these sidewalks.
May I interject?
Public hearing's closed. So I move that we deny the variance request for case 421. Motion's been made. Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. John Michael, we're
That
done.
concludes all of the hearings that will take place today. Our next meeting will take place on February the 1st, 2018, at this location at 1 p.m. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.